If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description. Additionally, if you would like to request novels and access my Google Drive where I have 200 plus audiobooks, then you can join my Patreon. Link is also provided in the description.
Chapter 41, Solution. Arthur POV. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples as I tried to ward off an impending headache. Planning this next film was proving to be more challenging than I'd anticipated. The good, the bad, the ugly needed a specific kind of backdrop, something reminiscent of Empirica's frontier age. We needed vast, dusty plains, craggy mountains, and sun-baked towns that looked like they'd sprouted from the very earth. The kind of place where you could almost taste the lawlessness in the air, where the line between hero and outlaw blurred like a mirage on the horizon. I'd thought about using the Ashen Plains again, but, no. It wasn't even close to what we needed. My team had been working tirelessly, going through the proper channels to get permission to film in Empirica itself. But after days of back and forth, mountains of paperwork, and enough ass-kissing to make my jaw ache, we got our answer, a resounding no. I sighed, the weight of rejection settling on my shoulders. Deep down, I'd known this would happen. The government of Empirica, steeped in their Solaris faith, hated me. The success of the Demonfather had only made things worse. Speaking of which, I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly as I recalled the latest batch of magazines and newspapers I'd read. The headlines were getting more hysterical by the day. Demonfather popularity in Empirica alarming, government considers ban. Solaris faith leaders condemn blasphemous demon film. Is the Demonfather corrupting our youth? I shook my head, remembering some of the more creative criticism. One particularly spiteful article had declared, the Demonfather is surely Arthur Morningstar's first and last success. A one-hit wonder if ever there was one. Even some demon newspapers and magazines were jumping on the bandwagon, eager to predict my downfall. Part of me wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to scream. But mostly, I felt a deep, burning determination. They thought the Demonfather was a fluke? They thought I couldn't do it again? I'd show them. We'd find a way to make this film, with or without Empirica's blessing. I paced back and forth, my mind racing. How could we create the perfect backdrop for our project? The Ashen Plains were close, but not quite there. We needed something more controllable. Suddenly, it hit me like a ton of bricks. A big studio. No, scratch that, a massive studio. The Ashen Plains couldn't completely capture what I had in mind, but what if we could build our own interior sets? We could design every establishment, every dusty street corner to match the vision in my head. We'd still use the Ashen Plains for some exterior shots. There were a few spots that were pretty close to what we needed, but the bulk of our filming could be done in a controlled environment. It would be a mix of interior and exterior filming. And now, with me having millions of dollars scattered across various banks in the kingdom, we could actually pull this off. Energized by the idea, I stood up and looked over at my team. They were huddled in small groups, deep in discussion about our predicament. Time to shake things up. I clapped my hands sharply. Guys, hear me out for a section. Heads turned, conversations died down. All eyes were on me, a mix of curiosity and apprehension in their gazes. I took a deep breath. I've got an idea. It's a bit out there, but I think it could work. I paused for effect, then dropped the bomb. We're going to buy a massive unused building in the city and convert it into our very own studio. For a moment, there was silence. Then the room erupted. A whole building. George sputtered, his beard quivering in disbelief. Our own studio. Klein's eyes were as wide as saucers. Lilith, ever practical, cut through the chatter. Boss, that's a huge undertaking. Are you sure we can pull it off? I nodded, a grin spreading across my face. I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. We'd have complete control over our sets. We could build exactly what we need, down to the last detail. I could see the idea starting to take hold. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by excitement and possibility. We've got the funds now, I continued, warming to my theme. We can make this happen. Just imagine, Hellfire Studios, with its own massive production space. We'd be the envy of every filmmaker in the kingdom. The energy in the room was palpable now. My team was buzzing with ideas, already discussing potential locations and set designs. I held up my hands, calling for quiet. I know it's a big step. It'll be a lot of work. But I believe in us. We made the Demonfather with scraps and determination. Just think what we can do with real resources. As I looked around at my team, I saw nods of agreement, eyes shining with excitement. We were in this together, ready to take on the world. Riding the wave of enthusiasm, I decided to strike while the iron was hot. All right, I said, clapping my hands together. Time to put this plan into action. I need you all to scout for a massive building we can convert. Think big, maybe a grand theater that's fallen on hard times, or better yet, an unused arena. I could see confusion on some faces, so I elaborated. You know, one of those big arenas they use for those flashy martial arts tournaments or magical duels. A chorus of ahs rippled through the group as understanding dawned. You mean like the Crimson Colosseum? Lilith piped up. Where they host the annual sword and sorcery spectacular. I nodded, a grin spreading across my face. That's right. Those kinds of places. For those who didn't grow up in this world, these arenas were a big deal. They hosted everything from nightly sword fighting tournaments to high-stakes magical duels. It's like a cross between a Roman gladiator arena and a modern-day sports stadium, but with more fireballs and flying swords. In these events, knights would clash in spectacular sword fights, their enchanted blades ringing out as they connected. Mages would face off in spell-slinging competitions, trying to outdo each other with increasingly potent and flashy magic. It was a spectacle of skill, strength, and arcane power that never failed to draw massive crowds. These events are hugely popular, I continued, but there might be some older arenas out there that have fallen out of use. Maybe they're too small for the big leagues now, or they're in need of repairs. That's what we're looking for, something with good bones that we can reshape to fit our needs. I could see the wheels turning in my team's heads. They were starting to envision the possibilities. Now, I know it sounds like a tall order, I admitted, but think about it. These places are already designed to accommodate large crowds and host spectacular events. With some renovations, we could turn one into the perfect film studio. George scratched his beard thoughtfully. We'd need to build sets, install lighting rigs. Exactly, I nodded. But we'd have the space to do it all. We could create our own little world inside those walls. Klein's eyes lit up. We could even use some of the existing structures. Like, if there's a VIP box, we could turn that into a saloon for our frontier town. I pointed at him, grinning. Now you're getting it. That's the kind of creative thinking we need. The excitement in the room was palpable now. Everyone was chattering, throwing out ideas and suggestions. I held up my hands for quiet. All right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First things first, we need to find this place. So, I want you all to start scouting. Check out every unused building, every old arena, every structure that might fit the bill. Talk to real estate agents, chat up locals, follow every lead you can find. Chapter 42, The Demonfather Positive Effect to Kingdom's Economy. Arthur POV. 2 days and a small fortune later, I found myself buried under a mountain of photographs. I'd sent out a small army of photographers to capture every unused arena and theater in the city. Now, surrounded by their work, I was beginning to wonder if I'd bitten off more than I could chew. Most of the options were less than ideal, to put it mildly. Some were too small, barely able to fit a decent-sized set, let alone all the equipment we'd need. Others were in such a state of disrepair that renovating them would cost more than building from scratch. A few were architecturally impressive but completely impractical for our needs, all style and no substance, like a pompous noble with an empty head. I tossed aside another stack of photos with a sigh. This was starting to feel like a wild goose chase. But then, buried beneath a pile of disappointing prospects, I found it. An arena just on the outskirts of the cheap district, not far from where we were now. It was massive, with sweeping arches and enough space to build a small village inside. The structure was sound, if a bit weathered. It was perfect. Curious, I dug deeper into its history. Turns out, this place used to be quite famous back in the day. The magazines had covered it extensively, not for its grand battles or spectacular events, but for its spectre residents. That's right. The place was supposedly haunted. I couldn't help but laugh. Even demons, creatures of darkness and chaos, were spooked by a few measly ghosts. But their loss was my gain. Because of its spooky reputation, the arena was going for a mere $200,000. Compared to the other options, which were selling for upwards of $500,000 or more. It was a steal. My mind made up, I gathered the crew to share the news. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted creatures of the night," I announced, holding up the photo of our soon-to-be studio space, "I give you the newest addition to Hellfire Studios." The reactions were mixed, to say the least. There was excitement, sure, but also more than a few nervous glances and muttered concerns about restless spirits. I waved off their worries. "Ghosts, demons, what's the difference? We're making movie here. A few spooks will just add to the ambience." And so, with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, we set off to claim our new domain. Standing before the arena, I had to admit, the place had a certain gloomy charm. A chill ran down my spine as we approached, but I shrugged it off with a grin. "Look on the bright side," I quipped to no one in particular, "free air conditioning." As we stepped inside, the sheer scale of the place took our breath away. Massive stone arches soared overhead, and the arena floor stretched out before us like a blank canvas, just waiting for our creative touch. Sure, there were cobwebs in the corners and the air was thick with dust and who knows what else. But all I could see was potential. Standing in the middle of our newly acquired arena, I couldn't help but grin. Sure, it looked like a disaster zone now, but in my mind's eye, I could already see the transformation. The place was a mess, no doubt about it, but I could see its potential. The renovation would be a massive undertaking, we're talking millions of dollars and at least 2 months of work, if we're lucky. But it would be worth it. This studio wouldn't just be for the good, the bad, the ugly. No, I had much bigger plans. The beauty of this space would be its flexibility. In this world of magic, we had opportunities that filmmakers in my past life could only dream of. I'd already acquired the architectural designs from the system, and they were something else. We're talking about a studio equipped with magical enhancements that would make even the most advanced CGI look like child's play. Illusion artifacts could create any backdrop we needed, changing our sets in the blink of an eye. With these, we could conjure up entire landscapes, water, mountains, sky, forests, all with the flick of a switch. For scenes that require a sky, we use the open arena to take advantage of the natural backdrop. If the scene needs to be set during a specific time, like day or night, that doesn't match the current conditions, we can easily adjust it. But for everything else, distant landscapes, fantastical environments, or even just to extend our sets beyond the physical constraints of the arena. There was a catch, of course. There's always a catch. The illusions, impressive as they were, had their limitations. We'd need to carefully match the physical ground to the illusory backgrounds, a task that would require no small amount of skill and resources. And then there were the magic cores that powered these artifacts. Those didn't come cheap. In fact, they were downright expensive. I grimaced, mentally tallying up the costs. The initial renovation was just the beginning. Maintaining this technological marvel would be an ongoing drain on our resources. We'd be burning through magic cores like there was no tomorrow, each one eating into our bottom line. No other studio, human, elven, or dwarven, would risk this much. They were content with their painted backdrops and practical effects. But then again, they were still thinking in black and white. We were moving into color, and that changed everything. At the same time, maybe I needed to put the good, the bad, the ugly on hold for now. With the studio under renovation, it might be smarter to focus on a project we could film without these fancy new facilities. I found myself scrolling through the entertainment shop, looking for stories. We needed something that would keep us in the public eye and, more importantly, keep the money flowing while we waited for our magical studio to be ready. Something that wouldn't require the expensive illusions we were investing in. Lucy Morningstar POV. Being the eldest princess of the royal Morningstar family comes with its fair share of responsibilities. Between my duties overseeing tourism and economic development and my studies at the University of Wizardry, I barely have time to breathe. But I manage. I have to. Lately, my work has been particularly challenging. Our kingdom's economy has been in decline, and tourism numbers have been dropping faster than a stone imp in a flying contest. It's been one headache after another. So when Lord Vermilion, my chief economic advisor, burst into my study with an unusually chipper expression, I was immediately suspicious. "Your Highness," he said, practically bouncing on his toes, "I have some rather surprising news." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Don't keep me in suspense, Vermilion." He cleared his throat, clearly relishing the moment. We've seen a rare increase in both tourism and economic investment in the kingdom. It seems we have some new admirers. Now he had my full attention. Admirers? What do you mean? Lady Crimson, my head of tourism development, stepped forward. It appears to be related to a film, Your Highness. The Demonfather, I believe it's called. I frowned. Between my studies and my duties, I'd been rather out of the loop. The Demonfather. I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. Lord Azura, one of my younger advisors, couldn't contain himself. You haven't heard of it, Your Highness? It's a masterpiece. The best film I've ever. He caught himself, shrinking back. Apologies, I got carried away. I'm somewhat of a fan. His enthusiasm piqued my curiosity. No need to apologize, Azura. Tell me more about this film. What's it about? Lady Crimson cleared her throat. Perhaps more pertinently, Your Highness, you might be interested to know who made it. I turned to her, intrigued. Oh? Is it someone I know? In a manner of speaking, she said carefully. It was made by your brother. My mind immediately went to Bobby and his endless self-aggrandizing projects. Bobby's made a good film? That's unexpected. Not Bobby, Your Highness, Lord Vermilion corrected gently. It was made by the exiled prince. Arthur. Arthur. I couldn't keep the shock from my voice. My little brother, the one we'd all written off as a failure, had made a film? And not just any film, but one successful enough to impact our kingdom's economy? Chapter 43, Planning to Cast a Dragon. Lucy Morningstar POV. I eyed my advisors skeptically. Arthur? The same Arthur who couldn't even summon a decent fireball? How in the nine hells could he have made a film influential enough to boost our economy and tourism? It must be a coincidence that our kingdom is suddenly popular with other races, I said, my voice laced with doubt. There has to be another explanation. My advisors exchanged uneasy glances. Lord Azura, ever the enthusiast, piped up, but Your Highness, how else could our demon kingdom become so popular without reason? I fixed him with a cold stare, watching with satisfaction as he shrank back. Good. A servant should know their place. My magical prowess far outstrips his, he'd do well to remember that. I'm not saying there's no reason for our kingdom's sudden popularity, I said, my voice sharp. I'm asking for a reasonable explanation. Anyone? Lady Crimson cleared her throat delicately. Your Highness, perhaps it's due to Luck Marbus's recent victory in the saber competition. I pondered this for a moment. I wasn't aware saber competitions had such a wide appeal. An idea struck me. Still, we should capitalize on this. Let's use Luck as a brand ambassador for the kingdom. As I began outlining plans, I noticed Azura lurking in the corner, a look of poorly concealed resentment on his face. Irritation flared within me. Do you have something to add, Azura? I asked, my tone deceptively calm. He bowed stiffly. Please, Your Highness. Just give the Demonfather a watch. Without waiting for a response, he turned and left the room. I bit back a growl of frustration. Stubborn bastard. Part of me wanted to have him reprimanded for his insolence. But another part, a quieter part, whispered that maybe there might be something to the film after all. I shook my head, dismissing the thought. No. Arthur couldn't possibly have created something so impactful. Could he? What if Azura was right? What if Arthur's film really was as remarkable as Azura claimed? I sighed, massaging my temples. Perhaps it wouldn't hurt to give this Demonfather a watch. Just to put the matter to rest, of course. Nothing more. Anus Hades POV. The acrid smell of brimstone hit me as soon as we stepped off the airship. Ah, the sweet stench of home. I grimaced, already missing the comparatively fresh air of Empirica. Remind me again why we're here. I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. Don Leviathan, his serpentine form coiled elegantly beside me, chuckled. Vacation, my boy. Even demons need a break now and then. I snorted. Vacation? In the Morningstar Kingdom? A few weeks ago, that would have been a punchline, not a plan. And it was true. Compared to the human, dwarven, or elven kingdoms, our homeland was, well, let's just say it wasn't winning any awards for comfort or entertainment. Sure, Other races might look down their noses at us, but at least they had decent plumbing. But here we were, joining the throngs of tourists, demon and non-demon alike, all because of a film. The Demonfather, I mused, shaking my head. Who'd have thought a demon-made movie could cause all this fuss? Don Leviathan's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Never underestimate the power of a good story, Anus. Especially one that shows our world in a new light. As our car wound its way through the streets, I couldn't help but notice the changes. The city seemed livelier somehow. Less doom and gloom, more hustle and bustle. It's been a long time since I've seen my hometown, Don Leviathan said, his usually stern face softening with nostalgia. I nodded, not really sharing his sentiment. My eyes were fixed on the road ahead, watching as the sprawling expanse of Great Neck came into view. There, Don Leviathan said suddenly, pointing with his tail. That's where Sonny died. I followed his gaze to a toll booth in the distance. Even from here, I could see the cluster of tourists, cameras flashing as they posed at the infamous site. Unbelievable, I muttered. They're treating it like some kind of amusement park. Don Leviathan shrugged, his scales shimmering in the dim light. It's bringing in money, isn't it? And attention. Maybe that's what our kingdom needed all along. I fell silent, pondering his words. As much as I hated to admit it, he had a point. For better or worse, the Demonfather had put us on the map. As we pulled up to the infernal heights, I found myself wondering about the demon behind it all. This Arthur Morningstar. What kind of prince makes a film that turns his whole kingdom upside down? Arthur POV. These past few days, I've been burning through entertainment points like there's no tomorrow. 100,000 points for just the script of the first Lord of the Rings movie. It's steep, but worth it. I didn't stop there. In the novel category, I snagged Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for a cool 200,000 points. It's not cheap, and the prices for the subsequent volumes and Lord of the Rings movies are even higher. But I'm not too worried. Each of these will help me rake in both entertainment points and cold, hard cash. It's funny, really. One of the reasons I went for the good, the bad, the ugly was its relatively low cost. Who knew it'd end up being such a headache to produce? Back in my old world, it would have been a breeze to film, minimal CGI, straightforward production. But here? It's turning into a logistical nightmare. Finding a country willing to let a demon studio film on their turf is like pulling teeth from a dragon. The backdrop we need, vast dusty plains and craggy mountains, isn't unique to Empirica. But other countries with similar landscapes are giving us the cold shoulder. Same reason as Empirica, apparently, I've offended their religion. That's why I've pivoted to the Lord of the Rings. Surprisingly, it might be easier to film here. There are locations right here in the kingdom that are dead ringers for Middle-earth, no illusions required. The province bordering the Ashen Plains? It's a spitting image of Mordor, minus the whole Land of Shadow bit. The Gloomstone Forest could pass for Mirkwood or Fangorn with minimal set dressing. And the rolling hills of the eastern province? Hobbiton, here we come. It's almost too perfect. In a world already filled with fantasy elements, the Lord of the Rings feels right at home. We won't need nearly as much CGI as the original films did. Real magic, real fantastical creatures, it's a filmmaker's dream. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. We've got our own unique challenges to face. But compared to the political minefield of the good, the bad, the ugly? I'll take orcs and elves any day. But casting for the Lord of the Rings was going to be a headache and a half, but one problem loomed larger than the rest: how in the nine hells was I going to cast a dragon? Sure, my father and eldest brother each had a wyvern at their beck and call, but I needed a proper dragon. The kind that could make Smaug look like a lizard with delusions of grandeur. Problem is, dragons only live on the Eden continent, home to the forest kingdom of the environmentalist elves and most of the dwarven kingdoms. It's a massive landmass, big enough to house creatures of that size and temperament. But it might as well be on another planet for all the good it does me. Chapter 44, Colorful World. Speaking of Harry Potter, I'm toying with the idea of releasing it as a book here. It'll be interesting to see how people in this world react. Of course, I'll need to tweak a few things, we're already in a fantasy world, after all. But I'm confident I can modify it without losing the charm that made it a hit back on Earth. I was so lost in thought that the knock on my office door made me jump. I looked up to see Klein poking his head in. "Boss, someone wants to see you, he said, looking a bit uncertain. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? Who is it? Before Klein could answer, a familiar figure stepped into the room, all confidence and swagger. It's me. Rupert Darkflame. I blinked, genuinely surprised. Rupert Darkflame, the 30-year-old demon actor who'd famously quit the industry, was standing in my office. This day just got a whole lot more interesting. Rupert, I said, standing up and trying to hide my surprise. This is unexpected. What brings you to our humble studio? Rupert's eyes darted around the room, taking in the posters of the Demonfather and the scattered script pages on my desk. Humble might be underselling it a bit, don't you think? Word on the street is that Hellfire Studios is the place to be these days. I gestured for him to take a seat, curiosity getting the better of me. And what does the great Rupert Darkflame want with us? Last I heard, you'd sworn off the film industry. Rupert sat down, his posture a mix of tension and excitement. Let's just say I've had a change of heart. Your film. The Demonfather, it made me remember why I got into this business in the first place. I leaned forward, intrigued. Go on. I want in, he said simply. Whatever your next project is, I want to be a part of it. No star treatment, no ridiculous demands. Just a chance to be part of something meaningful again. I leaned back in my chair, studying Rupert. Sure, he was once a rising star, but I wasn't about to hand out roles based on past glory. Hell, the only reason I even knew about him was because of his brother, Damien Darkflame, the current top demon actor. I hadn't even seen any of their films. You're interested in being part of my next film? I chuckled, deciding to test the waters. Our next project isn't even off the ground yet. We haven't started casting. What makes you so sure it'll be as good as the Demonfather? Rupert's eyes flickered to the scripts on my desk, a smile playing on his lips. Call it demon instinct, but I've got a feeling I don't want to miss out on whatever Hellfire Studios does next. He paused, a hint of regret in his voice. I'm kicking myself for not accepting the role of Sonny when I had the chance. Ah, right. I vaguely remembered sending out invitations to some down-on-their-luck actors, rock bottom list. Guess Rupert was on that list. Instinct, hey. I said, unable to keep the amusement from my voice. Did you know the entire film industry, not just demons, but the whole lot, is scrutinizing me? They're saying the Demonfather was a fluke, a one-hit wonder. That I just got lucky. Rupert's smile didn't falter. Mr. Morningstar, I couldn't care less about media speculations. All I know is that I want in on your next project, whatever it is. Even if it's just a bit part, I'll take it. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Here was Rupert Darkflame, part of a renowned acting family, practically begging for any role he could get. It was unexpected, to say the least. That's quite an offer, Rupert, I said, measuring my words carefully. But I have to ask, why? Why are you so determined to work with us? Rupert leaned forward, his eyes intense. Because you're doing something different. Something real. The big studios, they're all about playing it safe, churning out the same old drivel. But you? You're shaking things up. And I want to be part of that. I nodded slowly, considering his words. There was a hunger in Rupert's eyes, a desperation almost. It was intriguing, but also a bit concerning. All right, Rupert, I said finally. I appreciate your enthusiasm. But let's get one thing straight, if you do end up in our next project, there's no star treatment. You'll be part of the team, just like everyone else. Can you handle that? Rupert's face broke into a genuine grin. Handle it? Mr. Morningstar, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I couldn't help but smile back. Well then, let's talk details. But remember, nothing's set in stone yet. We've got a long way to go before we start casting. Vivian POV. It's funny how quickly things can change. A few weeks ago, I was just another struggling actress. Now? I can barely walk down the street without being recognized as Apollonia from the Demonfather. Managers, agents, directors, suddenly everyone wants a piece of me. My own manager's been relentless, pushing me to accept some high-paying role or another. It's overwhelming, to say the least. I should be thrilled. This is what I've always wanted, right? To be in demand, to have my pick of roles. But every time I think about accepting one of these offers, something holds me back. I can't stop thinking about Hellfire Studios. About their next project. About Arthur. It's ridiculous, really. My part in The Demonfather was tiny. Just a few scenes. But those few scenes were enough to launch my career into the stratosphere. And working with Arthur, seeing his vision come to life, it was unlike anything I've experienced before. I catch myself wondering what he's planning next. Will it be another period piece? Something different? Whatever it is, I want to be a part of it. I know. I should be practical. Take advantage of this momentum while I have it. But the thought of working on some generic blockbuster, no matter how well it pays, just doesn't excite me the way the prospect of another Hellfire Studios production does. There's a part of me that wonders if I'm reading too much into The Demonfather. All those rumors about hidden messages, about it being some kind of elaborate chess game involving the Morningstar royal family, it's probably just gossip. Right? But then I remember the intensity in Arthur's eyes during filming. Maybe there was more to it than I realized. I sigh, flopping back onto my bed. My manager would have a fit if he knew what I was thinking. Turning down guaranteed paydays on the off chance that Arthur might have a role for me in his next film? It's madness. But I can't shake this feeling. This certainty that whatever Hellfire Studios does next, it's going to be big. And I want to be a part of it again. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one from the cast who feels this way. Furful POV. Ugh. Unbelievable. The Demonfather becomes a hit even in the Rose's Kingdom, and what does Mother do? Sends me a letter full of reprimands. As if my baseless dream is something to be ashamed of. I crumple the paper, channeling my frustration into a burst of wind magic. In seconds, the letter is nothing but ashes. If only I could deal with Mother's disapproval so easily. Mother wouldn't understand, I mutter, absently tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. How could she? In her world, my greatest achievement should be winning some inane beauty contest. As if that's all I'm good for. Acting isn't just some fleeting fancy. It's art. It's life. It's everything. But how can I make her see that? How can I explain the thrill of becoming someone else, of telling stories that matter, to someone who sees the world in black and white? I shook my head, still reeling from the letter's contents. But as my frustration ebbed, another thought bubbled up. The Demonfather. It's still hard to wrap my mind around it. An exiled prince, the black sheep of the Morningstar family, and he pulls off a film that's raked in $98 million globally. It's staggering. And it's not stopping. The film's still screening, still drawing crowds. More countries are just starting to show it. Who knows how high that number will climb? Arthur. Just thinking about what he's achieved makes me feel a mix of awe and something else. Admiration? Respect? Maybe a bit of both. I can't help but wonder what he'll do next. Whatever it is, it's definitely going to be interesting. Arthur didn't just make a great film or give my career a boost. He brought color to our world literally, with that ingenious camera of his, and figuratively with his vision. It's funny. In a way, Arthur is the complete opposite of Mother. Where she sees everything in stark black and white, he sees a world bursting with color. Like how every person has their own unique shade, their own perspective to offer. That's what makes the world interesting to me. Chapter 45, Is This For Real? Arthur POV. After that chat with Rupert Darkflame, I've been knee-deep in negotiations with book publishers. Harry Potter is burning a hole in my pocket, and I'm itching to get it out there. But these talks? They're enough to make me want to pull my horns out. Every publisher I've met has the same song and dance. You're a new writer, they say, conveniently forgetting about a little film called The Demonfather. They offer royalties that wouldn't buy a decent cup of coffee, all while claiming they're taking some huge risk. The last straw was my meeting with Flaming Books. The editor actually had the gall to call me a one-hit wonder to my face. As if The Demonfather was just some fluke. That's when it hit me. Why am I letting these short-sighted publishers dictate terms? I've got the means, the vision, and the story. Time to cut out the middleman. So, I've done it. I've founded Hellfire Stories. My own publishing company. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think? I've sunk about $100,000 into a printing factory. It's not much to look at right now, all clanking machinery and the smell of ink and paper. But when I walk through it, I can almost hear the hum of stories waiting to be told. And I didn't stop there. I've bought up stores all over the city and beyond, shelling out hundreds of thousands more. Each one a potential gateway to the worlds I'm going to create. Is it a risk? Hell yes. But I've never been one to play it safe. And something tells me Harry Potter is going to be just the beginning. While my team and I have been neck-deep in preparations for The Lord of the Rings, I've somehow managed to squeeze in time to finish writing Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't need to sleep, isn't it? With the manuscript hot off my typewriter, I headed down to the printing factory. The place is a cacophony of clanking machinery and the sharp smell of ink. It's not exactly high-tech, but it's the best we've got in this world. I handed the manuscript to Grigori, the demon overseeing the printing. He thumbed through the pages, his brow furrowed in concentration. So, how long will it take? I asked, trying not to sound too impatient. Grigori scratched his chin, leaving a smudge of ink. Well, Mr. Morningstar, considering the volume and our current capabilities, I'd say we can have the first batch ready in about 3 weeks. I must have looked surprised because he quickly added, that's if we run the presses day and night, of course. It's not like those fancy human factories, but we'll get it done. 3 weeks. In my old life, that would have seemed glacially slow. But here, with our steam-powered presses and handset type, it's practically lightning speed. I nodded, trying to hide my impatience. All right, Grigori. 3 weeks it is. Just make sure the quality is top-notch. Leaving the printing factory behind, I head back towards the studio. It's funny how things change. These days, the place is swarming with actors, mostly the ones who couldn't get the time of day from big studios before. Now they're lining up to audition for our next project. The crowds got so bad we had to move auditions to that big warehouse I snagged in the cheap district. Who would have thought we'd outgrow our space so quickly? As I stroll down the streets, I can't help but notice the change in how people look at me. Gone are the sneers and whispers of trashy prints. Now, I see admiration in their eyes. It's different. Not unwelcome, but definitely going to take some getting used to. Don't get me wrong, there are still plenty of demons who'd love to see me fall flat on my face. Can't please everyone, I suppose. But the shift is undeniable. What really throws me for a loop is the reaction from other races. I overhear an elf whispering to his dwarf buddy, "That's Michael Corleone." As I pass by. It takes everything in me not to turn around and correct them. I'm not Michael, I just played him. But then again, maybe that's the point of good acting. A group of young humans actually stops me, asking for autographs. Me. The demon they probably would have crossed the street to avoid a few months ago. I sign their papers, trying to keep my hand from shaking. It's surreal. Before I know it, I'm actually starting to feel like a superstar. It's a far cry from the trashy Prince label I'd been stuck with for so long. As I finally make it back to the studio, dodging another group of autograph seekers, I can't help but shake my head. Fame is a fickle thing. One minute you're the laughingstock of the kingdom, the next you're everyone's favorite demon. I just hope I can keep this momentum going. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that in this business, you're only as good as your last hit. And I've got no intention of being a one-hit wonder. I step into the warehouse, and it's like walking into a beehive. Actors are everywhere, all buzzing with nervous energy, hoping to land a role. But my attention is immediately drawn to my team huddled in the corner, looking like they're about to draw swords on each other. "How are you doing, guys? Auditions going all right?" I call out, making my presence known. "You all look like you're about to start a brawl." Mercy, one of our casting team members, is quick to respond. "No, Your Highness. We're not fighting, but we've got a bit of a disagreement with the casting director." Mart nods, pointing at 2 actor profiles. "Klein says this guy performed better, but we think it's the other one." I take the profiles, eyeing them carefully. One's an imp demon, the other a dwarf. Neither screams Gollum to me, but I keep that thought to myself for now. "All right, what's the story here?" I ask, bracing myself for the drama. Klein jumps in, explaining how the imp demon nailed the performance, his voice dripping with enthusiasm. But before he can finish, Mercy cuts in. "See, boss. He's clearly biased. I bet that imp's his cousin or something. Mart nods vigorously. The dwarf was definitely better. No contest. I resist the urge to roll my eyes. They're arguing over Gollum, of all roles? Neither of these guys looks remotely like the character I have in mind. Before things can escalate further, I hold up my hands. Alright, guys, let's pump the brakes here. To be honest, I don't think either of them is quite right for Gollum. The looks on their faces are priceless. You'd think I'd just announced we're making a romantic comedy instead of Lord of the Rings. What? Why? Klein sputters. Mercy chimes in, don't you want to see their performances first, boss? Yet, how can you know they're not right without even seeing them act? Mart adds, looking perplexed. I sigh internally. If I tell them it's because neither actor looks the part, they'll probably accuse me of being shallow. But the truth is, Gollum is such a unique character, we need someone who can embody him physically as well as dramatically. Look, I just know, all right. I say, trying to sound confident rather than dismissive. Sometimes you've got to trust your gut in this business. They don't look convinced, but they're not arguing either. Small victories, I suppose. All right, let's put a pin in this argument for now, I say, gesturing towards the line of increasingly antsy actors. We've got a warehouse full of people waiting. We can duke it out later. Klein nods, looking properly chastised. Yes, boss. I make my way to the center of the judging table, settling into the slightly taller chair reserved for me. It's a bit much, if you ask me, but apparently it's expected. Image and all that. With a nod to the crew, I signal for the auditions to begin. One by one, actors step forward, each hoping to be the next big thing in Hellfire Studios' upcoming blockbuster. I put on my best serious director face, pen poised over my notepad. To anyone watching, I probably look like I'm jotting down detailed critiques of each performance. The reality? Most of my notes consist of average or bad, with the occasional good thrown in when someone actually impresses me. It's not that I'm being harsh. It's just, well, when you've got the original performances etched into your memory, it's hard not to compare. As I'm contemplating whether mediocre is too mean to write down, the next actor steps up. I barely glance up at first, expecting more of the same. But then I do a double take so hard I nearly give myself whiplash. Holy hellfire! They, being standing in front of me looks like Gollum's long-lost twin. Or cousin. Or whatever the equivalent would be for a creature that's meant to be one of a kind. Chapter 46, Crag. Arthur POV. I blink hard, wondering if I'm hallucinating. But no, he's still there. Gaunt, wide-eyed, with that unmistakable hunched posture. It's like Andy Serkis stepped out of my memories and into this world. I lean forward, suddenly very interested. What's your name? I ask, trying not to sound too eager. The creature demon? Goblin? I'm not even sure blinks those massive eyes at me. I'm Crag, your royal highness, he says, his massive eyes fixed on me as he bows so low I half expect him to topple over. I can't help but study him. He's not quite as thin as Gollum, and that afro is definitely a new look, but I can see the potential. With the right diet and some potions, he could definitely pull off the appearance. The hair we can work with. Are you a demon? I ask, my curiosity getting the better of me. Well. Crag hesitates, and I know that look. He looked like he had an identity crisis. It's like a person who's deciding if he's Asian or American. Well. I prompt, trying to keep my tone gentle. Crag glances around nervously before leaning in. I can be a demon, your highness. But also. He lowers his voice, I'm an imp demon. And also a dwarf, your royal highness. Imp demon and a dwarf. I mutter, intrigued. Now that's a combination you don't see every day. Before I can respond, I catch snippets of not-so-whispered comments from the other actors. Hee, no wonder he looked like that. He looks so ugly. An imp and dwarf like him thinks he can get a role with his appearance? Hat. I feel a flash of anger, but I force myself to ignore them. However, I can see Crag's affected by the comments. Time for a distraction. Is it natural for an imp and dwarf like you to have a hunched posture like that? I ask, gesturing to his Gollum-like stance. Crag straightens up, looking embarrassed. No, your highness. I've just did that posture because I'm imitating Gollum from the script. I nod, a smile playing on my lips. This guy's certainly done his homework. Klein leans in, his voice barely above a whisper. Boss, he's too, well, ugly for the role. We demons might not care, but the other races? They'll hate it. Mercy nods, chiming in, yet, we're after the right look for Gollum, right? This guy doesn't cut it. I have to bite back a laugh. If only they knew. They're so hung up on appearances because I didn't spell out Gollum's full description in the script. Just his body language and height. Same for the other characters. Sometimes, less is more. I level a steady gaze at them. You don't get to decide who I choose. Their mouths snap shut so fast I swear I hear teeth click. Crag's shoulders slump, his big eyes downcast. Your Royal Highness. I guess I won't be getting the role. His voice is heavy with disappointment as he turns to leave. Wait. My voice is quiet, but it freezes him in his tracks. He turns back, fear flickering across his face. Poor guy probably thinks I'm going to humiliate him like the rest. But what comes next shocks everyone, Crag included. You will get the role of Gollum. Still want to leave? Crag's eyes go wider than I thought possible. Is this a joke, Your Highness? I can't help but smile at his disbelief. Not a joke. You'll definitely be in the project. The room erupts into shocked murmurs. Klein and Mercy look like they've been slapped with a wet fish. But Crag? The hope dawning on his face makes it all worth it. Sometimes, you've got to trust your gut in this business. And right now? My gut's telling me we've found our Gollum. Crag POV. I can't believe my ears. Did I just get chosen for the role? Will you be part of my project? His Royal Highness Arthur asks, his piercing gaze fixed on me. The infamous youngest prince of the Morningstar family, known for his unconventional ways, is actually offering me a chance? As a failed actor and contortionist, I should be jumping at this opportunity. But a part of me fears it's just another cruel joke. Still, I can't let this slip away. I want to be part of your project, Your Highness. I blurt out, my voice a mix of excitement and trepidation. That's very good, Arthur says, a smile playing on his lips. He stands up and, in one fluid motion, leaps down from the raised platform, landing right in front of me. I flinch instinctively as he reaches out, memories of past humiliations flashing through my mind. How many times have I been tossed around like a rag doll by other demons? I squeeze my eyes shut, bracing for impact. But it never comes. I crack open an eye to find Arthur smiling at me, his hand resting gently on my shoulder. I've got high hopes for you, Crag, he says, his voice warm. Come to Hellfire Studios tomorrow morning. We'll discuss your role preparation. The kindness in his words is too much. I feel my eyes well up as I drop to my knees. Thank you very much, Your Highness. To my surprise, Arthur crouches down to my level. All right, no need for a scene, he says, his tone gentle but firm. You're a demon and a dwarf. You need to be confident and brave. Don't let anyone look down on you. I look up at him, my heart swelling with gratitude and newfound determination. Don't forget who you are, he continues. Be proud of your demon heritage, but also draw strength from your dwarf side. Both make you unique. I nod, wiping away my tears. I'll take those words to heart, Your Highness. Arthur stands, gesturing towards the exit. Go on now. We've got more auditions to get through, and we don't want to hold things up. Right away, Your Highness, I say, scrambling to my feet. I bow once more before hurrying out of the warehouse. I can feel the envious glares of the other actors burning into my back, but for once, I don't care. Who would have thought? I showed up at that audition running on fumes and desperation. Hell, I was half expecting the infamous prince to use me as his personal punching bag for laughs. Wouldn't be the first time I've been the butt of some highborn's joke. These past few weeks, my stomach's been more empty than full. The circus where I work or worked, I guess was about to kick me to the curb. Some hotshot imp came along, bending himself into pretzels that make my contortions look like a rusty gate hinge. And my acting career? Let's just say it's been on life support since day one. No agency would touch me with a 10-foot pole. The few roles I managed to snag were blink and you'll miss it extras. Half the time, I'd drag my family to see my big screen debut, only to find my scenes cut or my face hidden behind the lead actor's elbow. I was circling the drain, no two ways about it. So when His Royal Highness dangled that olive branch in front of me, you bet I snatched it up, thorns and all. Infamous prince or not, beggars can't be choosers, right? Now, I can barely contain myself thinking about tomorrow. It's like someone lit a fire under me, and for once, it's not because I'm being chased out of town. As I make my way back to the outer city of Furland, to the place I hesitate to call home, I can't wipe the grin off my face. Our house is more patchwork than building at this point, held together by hope and stubborn determination. But when I burst through the door, shouting about landing a big role, you'd think I'd just announced we'd won the royal lottery. My family's faces light up, and for a moment, our cramped, leaky home feels like a palace. Ma's eyes well up, Pa claps me on the back so hard I nearly topple over, and my little sister starts dancing around the room, singing about how her brother's going to be a star. For the first time in what feels like forever, there's laughter in our house. Real, genuine laughter. Not the bitter chuckles we usually share over our misfortunes. Chapter 47, Miniature Models. Arthur POV. The sun's barely up, and I'm already unlocking the studio doors. To my surprise, there's Crag, our half-imp, half-dwarf Gollum, looking like he's been camped out all night. I can't help but smile. You're here early. Excited. Crag's practically vibrating with nervous energy. Yes, Your Royal Highness. I'm very excited for the role. I chuckle, shaking my head. Hey, ease up on the Your Highness bit, alright? I'm not exactly rolling in royal status these days. Understood, Your High. Crag catches himself, flushing. I mean, Arthur's fine. Or Sir Arthur if you're feeling fancy. Boss works too. I give him what I hope is a reassuring smile. Whatever makes you comfortable. Okay, boss, Crag says, giving me a salute that's half respect, half nerves. I nod, gesturing towards the studio. Come on in. Time to meet the team. As we walk in, I can feel Crag tensing up beside me. Poor guy looks like he's about to face a dragon, not a bunch of sleep-deprived film crew. Everyone, I call out, getting their attention. This is Crag. He's our Gollum. Let's make him feel welcome, yet. The crew nods, a mix of curious glances and polite smiles. I turn to our transformation team makeup artists, dietitians, and our resident potion expert. I need you guys to help Crag get into character. I've drawn up a list of potions and a diet plan that should get him looking like the Gollum I've got in mind. As I hand over the plans, I can see Crag's eyes widening. Guess he's realizing this role might be more intense than he thought. Don't worry, I say, patting him on the shoulder. We're not going to turn you into a frog or anything. Though if we did, it might make those river scenes easier to film. A few chuckles ripple through the crew, and I see Crag's shoulders relax a bit. Good. A little laughter goes a long way in breaking the ice. With Crag sorted, I make my way to check on the art team. As I push open the door to their workspace, I'm hit by the smell of paint and glue. It's oddly comforting. The room is a hive of activity, my artists hunched over intricate miniature models for The Lord of the Rings. I can't help but feel a surge of pride. This concept is completely new to them, probably to the whole industry, but they're taking to it like ducks to water. You guys are making great progress, I say, making my presence known. A few heads snap up, startled. Looks like creating this art department was worth every penny. Roy, our wolf demon team leader, turns to me with a grin that shows off his impressive canines. Glad you like our work, boss. I give his shoulder a pat as I lean in to examine the nearly complete model of Isengard. The detail is breathtaking, each tiny stone, every miniature tower exactly as I'd imagined it. This is incredible, Roy, I say, gesturing to the model. You've captured it perfectly. Roy's chest puffs up with pride, but he's quick to deflect the praise. If not for your drawings, boss, we'd be lost. They're our guiding light. I can't help but smile. He's right, of course. A week ago, when the system unlocked the skill shop, thank you, Demonfather success, I immediately splurged on drawing skills. It was a necessity, how else could I convey these fictional locations to my team? Well, I'm glad they're helping, I say, running a finger along the tiny walls of Isengard. But you're the ones bringing them to life. It's like seeing my memories take physical form. I catch myself, realizing how odd that must sound. But if the team thinks it's strange, they don't show it. They're too engrossed in their work, hands steady as they paint microscopic bricks and shape minuscule trees. How are we looking time-wise? I ask, turning back to Roy. Think we'll be ready for filming on schedule. Roy scratches his chin, leaving a smudge of paint in his fur. It'll be tight, boss, but we'll make it. The team's really fired up about this project. I nod, feeling a surge of excitement. Good. Keep up the great work, everyone. You're making magic here. As I turn to leave, I can't help but take one last look at the room. These miniatures, these tiny worlds taking shape under skilled hands, they're more than just models. They're the first step in bringing my vision to life. Changing the topic, I've been racking my brains trying to solve our orc casting problem. We've managed to find a few orc demons here in the Morningstar Kingdom, but it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. We need an army, not a handful. The real jackpot of orc demons is over in the Thorn Kingdom. It's a smaller demon realm across the sea, technically our neighbor, but, well, it's complicated. The Thorn Kingdom used to be part of our territory. But they broke away years ago, established their own government on that island. It's been a sore spot for the Morningstar royals ever since. Dad's always going on about reunification at the dinner table. Makes for some awkward family meals, let me tell you. Politics aside, it's a headache for our production. The orc demons over there might not be too keen on playing extras in a Morningstar Kingdom film. There's a lot of bad blood, understandably. I've been tossing around the idea of using primal orcs from our dangerous forests as an alternative. They're not quite as advanced as orc demons, but physically, there's not much difference. They're more tribal, no demon blood in the mix, but they could work in a pinch. It's a tricky situation. On one hand, using Thorn Kingdom orc demons would be ideal for authenticity. On the other, it could open up a whole can of political worms. And let's face it, I've got enough on my plate without adding international incidents to the mix. The primal orcs are a safer bet, politically speaking. But they're, well, primal. Training them for a film shoot could be interesting, to say the least. I shake my head, pushing thoughts of orc casting to the back of my mind. That's a problem for future Arthur. Right now, I've got bigger fish to fry, namely, our upcoming shoot in the Gloomstone Forest. 20 miles might not sound like much, but when you're hauling an entire film crew and their equipment, it might as well be on the moon. The logistics alone are enough to give me a migraine. But then again, when has anything about this project been easy? Thankfully, I've got an ace up my sleeve, or rather, a stone in my pocket. I finger the small, smooth rock I picked up from the system's magic shop. To the untrained eye, it looks like any other pebble you'd find on the street. But this little beauty? It's a portal stone. The plan is simple: set up a teleportation point here at the studio, then physically travel to Gloomstone Forest to establish another point there. After that, instant travel between locations. No more day-long trips, no more caravans of equipment. Just step through and boom, you're there. Portal travel used to be commonplace back in the ancient times, but now? It's rarer than a friendly dragon. Only the bigwigs in government and royalty have access to portal stones these days. For the average people, they're the stuff of legends. Which is exactly why this needs to stay under wraps. The last thing I need is some nosy higher-up getting wind of this and deciding to confiscate our little shortcut in the name of national security or whatever. I've already got a plan forming. Key crew members only. Hidden locations for the portal points. For the main shoot, most of the team can stay on location. Me and a select few can handle the back and forth, keeping everyone supplied without raising suspicion. Chapter 48, Gloomstone Forest. Arthur POV. 2 days of travel brought us to Gloomstone Forest. 8 hours by car, 4 by bus, and a final stretch on foot. We're staying in Gloomstone Town, close enough to the forest for convenience. Stepping into the forest's edge, I'm struck by how much it resembles Fangorn. The trees are old and gnarled, moss hanging from their branches. The air is damp and heavy with the scent of decaying leaves. This is the place, I tell my crew. We'll film Fangorn scenes here. One of my assistants, a nervous-looking imp, pipes up. Boss, shouldn't we have hired an adventurer or mercenary? I know where this is going. Because it's dangerous, right? He nods. Yes, boss. There are goblins, sometimes even trolls around here. I'm not as concerned as I would have been a few months ago. The system's given me some advantages. I've learned a breathing technique that's increased my mana pool and magic potency. I've also picked up some physical training that's boosted my stamina and fighting skills. I'm not at my brother's level, but I'm closer to Bobby's strength now. It's enough to handle the local wildlife, at least. Don't worry about goblins and such, I tell them. I can handle it. The crew looks skeptical, but they don't argue. We start setting up our equipment, and I keep an eye out for any potential threats. I watch my team bustling around, setting up equipment for our test runs. We're not filming properly yet, but these tests are crucial. In a few days, once casting's wrapped up, we'll be back here in full force. The dragon casting's a problem for future me. As for the orcs, I've got a plan brewing. We'll use the few orc demons we've found, then supplement with primal orcs from deep in the Gloomstone forest. Of course, we'll need a guide for that little expedition. Another item for the to-do list. While the crew's busy, I catch George's eye and nod towards the trees. He follows me without a word. Where should we set up our portal? He whispers once we're out of earshot. I scan the area. Somewhere hidden. Maybe in the hollow of an old tree or something similar. George furrows his brow. You're not worried someone might stumble upon it? I can't help but chuckle. Why would I be? To activate the portal, they'd need to know the password I'm going to set. Password. George's eyes widen. Your portal will have a password. Of course, I say, grinning at his surprise. It's a basic function of the portal stone. Can't have just anyone using our secret shortcut, can we? We continue our search, discussing potential hiding spots. Finally, we spot an ancient tree in the distance, its trunk twisted and gnarled with age. A large hollow at its base catches my eye. There, I point. That's perfect. As we approach, George pulls out the necessary tools from his pack. All right, let's get this set up. I'll need to do some dwarven crafting to anchor it properly. I nod, pulling out the portal stone. I'll start the activation ritual. Between your crafting and my magic, this should be undetectable to anyone who doesn't know exactly what they're looking for. Once we've found the perfect spot, a hollow in an ancient, gnarled tree, George and I get to work. We've got to move fast, the crew might start wondering where we've disappeared to if we take too long. I pull out the portal stone, its surface cool and smooth in my palm. George rummages in his pack, producing a set of dwarven crafting tools. All right, I say, kneeling down at the base of the tree. I'll start the activation ritual. You work on anchoring it. George nods, his face set in concentration. He begins etching intricate runes into the bark of the tree, his movements precise and practiced. I'm reminded again why having a dwarf on the team is so invaluable. I close my eyes, holding the stone in both hands. The ritual isn't complicated, but it requires focus. I begin to channel my mana into the stone, feeling it warm under my touch. As I do, I whisper the activation phrase. By shadow and light, by root and branch, I bind this stone to this place. The stone begins to pulse with a soft, bluish light. I can feel it resonating with the natural magic of the forest. So far, so good. George, I call out, my eyes still closed. How's the anchoring coming? Almost done, he grunts. Just need to, there. I feel a surge of energy as George's dwarven runes connect with the portal stone's magic. The light intensifies for a moment, then fades to a subtle glow. Opening my eyes, I see the portal stone has sunk partially into the tree's hollow, the runes George carved forming a perfect circle around it. If you didn't know what to look for, you'd never spot it. Now for the password, I mutter, placing my hand on the stone once more. I whisper a phrase, something only I and a select few will know. The stone flashes once, acknowledging the security measure. George wipes sweat from his brow. Is that it? Are we done? I nod, standing up and brushing dirt from my knees. That's it. One secret portal, ready for use. Want to test it out? George grins, his earlier nervousness replaced by excitement. You bet, boss. I place my hand on the stone, whisper the password, and focus on our studio back in the city. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, with a soft whoosh, a shimmering doorway appears in the air before us. After you, I say, gesturing to George with a grin. I step through the portal after George, and whoa, it's like being turned inside out and back again. For a few seconds, I'm blind, my head spinning like I've had one too many at the tavern. When my vision clears, we're standing in the studio, the familiar smell of paint and sawdust filling my nostrils. It works, George says, his voice a mix of excitement and nausea. He's swaying a bit, probably as dizzy as I am. Right, I say, trying to sound more steady than I feel. Problem solved. Let's head back before the crew starts wondering where we've gone. Another dizzying trip through the portal, and we're back in Gloomstone Forest. The crew's almost finished setting up the equipment, and the construction team is already modifying the area for our shoot. Boss, where'd you disappear to? One of the crew members asks, eyeing us suspiciously. I shrug, aiming for nonchalance. Just took a look around. Didn't even see any goblins or trolls. Jeff, our local guide from Gloomstone Town, pipes up. They usually come out in the afternoon or at night. Right now, they're too scared of demons in broad daylight. He pauses, giving me a look that makes me wonder if he's trying to tell me something. They only target weak demons, and only when they're alone in the forest at off hours. I can't help but feel he's implying I fall into the weak demon category. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jeff. With this many of you, Jeff continues, you've got nothing to worry about. A simple fireball would scare off those goblins and trolls. I turn to my crew, who look slightly less terrified now. See? Nothing to worry about. I chuckle, glancing at my crew. Their relief is palpable, like kids realizing the monster under the bed is just a shadow. It hits me then, these guys are total city slickers. They're so used to the hustle and bustle of urban life that the thought of a few forest critters has them jumpy. I guess when your biggest daily threat is getting splashed by a passing carriage, the idea of goblins and trolls seems pretty daunting. Though goblins and trolls aren't a threat to us demons, Jeff says, his tone suddenly serious, in the deeper parts of Gloomstone Forest, there are orcs. They live in tribes, so they're definitely more dangerous. I suggest you guys never go there. As we're talking, something catches my eye. There, in the distance, is that a troll? Its head is just visible, peeking out from behind a tree. It probably thinks it's well hidden, but subtlety isn't exactly a troll's strong suit. Chapter 49, Troll Chief. Arthur POV. I can't help but stare at the troll in the distance. Sure, I've seen them in books, but nothing quite prepares you for the real deal. This one's shorter than I expected, barely reaching dwarf height. Its face is all chubby cheeks and a comical nose, with curious eyes peeking out from under a mop of shoulder-length hair. Could be female, maybe? Before I can get a better look, it notices me watching and ducks out of sight. Shy little thing. Hey, Jeff, I call out, interrupting his forest safety lecture. Are the trolls around here usually this shy? Jeff raises an eyebrow, like he's surprised I even noticed a troll. Some are pretty meek, yet. Stay out of trouble. But most. He chuckles. They're little troublemakers. Love using their magic to prank travelers and even goblins. Now that piques my interest. Magic? Oh right, they can manipulate trees, can't they? Jeff nods. Yep. They use it to scare folks, make 'em think the trees are coming alive or something. Harvey, one of my more nervous crew members, pipes up. Wait, if they can control trees, aren't they super dangerous? Jeff's explanation is oddly reassuring. They can be, sure. 5 trolls working together can move an ancient tree, give our mages and adventurers a real headache. But they rarely mess with demons these days. They know better. There's a story there, I can tell. What happened? Some kind of troll-demon showdown in the past. Jeff's eyes light up, clearly excited to share some local history. About 30 years back, in my dad's day, the trolls got cocky. Started raiding the town, pushing folks around. For a few days, we had ancient trees stomping through the streets. George leans in, totally hooked. Then what? Well, the townsfolk fought back, started pushing those trees out. But the real turning point? Lord Demiurge from Evilest City showed up. Nearly wiped out every troll in the forest. I whistle, impressed. Damn. Guess that taught them a lesson. Jeff nods. Would have been the end of them if their chief hadn't begged for mercy. In the common tongue, if you can believe it. Now that's interesting. A troll that can speak our language? The filmmaker in me is already seeing possibilities. As Jeff's story sinks in, the gears in my head start turning. A troll chief who can speak the common tongue? Now that's an opportunity if I've ever heard one. I'd been racking my brain about how to bring the Ents to life. Those walking, talking trees were going to cost a fortune in one-time illusion spells. But if trolls can manipulate ancient trees, well, that changes everything. It's funny. Before Jeff's little history lesson, I wouldn't have even considered approaching trolls. How do you negotiate with creatures you can't even talk to? But now? Now I've got a potential translator. While Jeff continues regaling the crew with forest tales, I quietly slip away. The power I've been cultivating courses through me as I silently dash towards where I last saw that shy troll. I leap from branch to branch, the forest a blur around me. It's exhilarating, using these new abilities. For a moment, I forget I'm an exiled prince turned filmmaker. Right now, I'm just another creature of the forest, moving with the trees. Suddenly, I spot them. The troll from earlier is chattering away in what must be the troll language to another of its kind. The newcomer looks shocked, its eyes wide and mouth agape. Wonder what's got them so worked up? I perch on a high branch, observing. Part of me knows this is crazy. I'm deep in unfamiliar forest, spying on creatures that, not too long ago, were at war with demonkind. But another part, well, that part's already imagining the incredible scenes we could create with their help. If I can find their chief, if I can communicate our intentions, this could be the solution to our Ent problem. Eli Trek POV. Today's different. Really different. There's a whole bunch of demons in our forest, and they're not just passing through. They're setting up weird-looking equipment, like they're planning to stay a while. It's got my fur standing on end. I was trying to get a better look when this young demon spotted me. There was something about him, a kind of power I've never felt before. It sent me scurrying back into the underbrush faster than you can say trolls do. I had to warn the others. Found a group of our usual troublemakers not far from the village. They're always looking for a chance to pull pranks on travelers, but this is different. This is dangerous. Listen up, you lot, I say, trying to sound as stern as my father does when he's in chief mode. I know you love your fun, but today's off limits. There's a bunch of demons over there, I point towards the clearing, and they look like they mean business. No pranks today, got it? Gornak, always the whiner, pipes up. Ah, come on, princess. If we don't have our fun, how are we supposed to get motivated for the hunt? The village needs to eat, you know. Yeah, Lissa chimes in, her eyes gleaming with mischief. If anything, more demons means more fun. Imagine their faces when the trees start moving at night. The others nod eagerly, and I can feel a headache coming on. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only sane troll in this forest. No, I say, putting my foot down. This is serious. Before anyone does anything stupid, we need to talk to my father. Riclo, all muscle and no brains, crosses his arms. Do we really need to bother the chief with this? I fix him with my best don't mess with me glare. Yes, Riclo, we do. These aren't your usual travelers. They're city demons, and one of them. I suppress a shudder, remembering that strange power. One of them is different. Dangerous. Riclo looks like he wants to argue, but something in my face must convince him. After a bit more grumbling, they all agree to come with me to the village. We weave through the familiar paths of our forest, the smell of moss and damp earth filling my nose. Soon, our little village comes into view, bustling with trolls going about their day. Hello, princess, they call out as we pass. I try to smile back, but my mind's too full of worry to manage more than a grimace. We make for the slightly larger house at the center of the village, Dad's place. As we enter, I see him lounging in his favorite chair, puffing on one of those cigarettes he gets from the demon towns. Show off. He nods at me. Daughter. Then his eyes flick to the group behind me. What's the matter? Why do we have Riclo and the others for a visit? Before I can open my mouth, Riclo pipes up. Chief, Eli says there's a bunch of weird demons. We take turns explaining what we saw. Dad listens, his face growing more serious with each word. Finally, he sighs. Just don't get in their way. We don't provoke the demons. Just as the words leave his mouth, there's a commotion outside. Dad frowns, grabbing his staff. What's happening? We rush out, and my heart nearly stops. There, standing in the middle of our village, is the young demon from before. The one with the strange power. It's him, father. I blurt out, pointing. He's the demon I felt the weird power from. Dad nods, his grip tightening on his staff. I know. He addresses the demon in the common tongue, his voice gruff. Oh, young demon. What's your business in my village? The demon doesn't answer right away. Instead, he crouches down to our level, a smile playing on his lips. So it's true. A chief can speak the common tongue. Dad's frown deepens. Indeed. I learned it when I was a kid. The demon nods, then looks around at the panicking trolls. I mean no harm, he says, his voice oddly soothing. I'm just here to have a talk with you, chief. Me? Dad asks, surprise clear in his voice. The demon simply nods, his smile never wavering. Who are you? How did you get here? Father's voice is gruff, but I can hear the undercurrent of worry. The demon's eyes flick to me for a heartbeat, and a chill runs down my spine. That look, it's knowing, almost amused. My stomach drops as realization hits me like a falling tree. He followed me. I led him straight to our village. Before I can process the implications, the demon speaks, his voice smooth as polished stone. My name is Arthur Morningstar. The name hangs in the air, heavy with significance. Morningstar. The demon royal family. I've heard whispers of that name, stories passed down in hushed tones around our village fires. Tales of power, of magic beyond our understanding. And now one of them is standing in our village, because of me. I want to shrink into the ground, to disappear into the forest floor. But I force myself to stand tall. After all, I'm the one who brought a morning star to our doorstep. Chapter 50, LOTR Casting. Earl Trek POV. In all my years as chief of the Gloomstone Trolls, I never imagined I'd be face to face with a demon in our village. Let alone one seeking me out. And not just any demon, but a Morningstar. The name alone sends a chill down my spine. Morningstar. Rulers of the largest chunk of the Anatolia continent. The family that has demon generals and lords at their beck and call. I've seen what one demon lord can do, the kind of power that could wipe our entire race off the map without breaking a sweat. And now, here's one of their princes, crouching in our humble village, smiling like he's come for afternoon tea. I grip my staff tighter, hoping the tremor in my hands isn't visible. Every instinct screams at me to run, to hide, to do anything but stand here facing this impossibly powerful being. But I'm the chief. I can't show fear. Not now. What can I do for you, my lord? I manage to ask, proud that my voice doesn't quaver. As I wait for his response, my mind races. Why is he here? What could a Morningstar possibly want from us? We're nothing in the grand scheme of things, just simple forest dwellers trying to live our lives in peace. I steal a glance at Eli, my daughter. She looks pale, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and. Is that guilt? What does she know about this? I push the thought aside. Whatever's happening, whatever this Arthur Morningstar wants, I need to handle it carefully. One wrong move, one misspoken word, and it could spell disaster for our entire village. The fate of our people rests on this conversation. Arthur POV. I size up the troll chief standing before me. He's a bit taller than the others, with an air of intelligence that sets him apart. But what really catches my eye is the fear, not just on his face, but mirrored in every troll around us. It's like they're expecting me to breathe fire or something. Time to put them at ease. Or at least, as much as possible. I'm here for a proposal, mister. I trail off, realizing I've forgotten a crucial detail. You are. The chief straightens up a bit. I'm Earl Trek, my lord. Earl Trek, I repeat, letting the name settle. Well, Mr. Trek, I have a proposition for you and your people. I gesture to the crowd of wide-eyed trolls. I'm offering you a job. You'd think I'd just announced the sky was falling. Earl's jaw drops, and a wave of shocked murmurs ripples through the crowd. A job? Earl echoes, like he's never heard the word before. I nod, fighting back a grin. Yes, a job. Earl's brow furrows. What job, my lord? We are nothing but trolls, mere forest dwellers. Now it's my turn to smile. That's exactly why I need you. Your magic, your ability to control the ancient trees, that's what I'm after. The murmuring grows louder. I can't understand a word, but the mix of confusion and excitement is clear enough. Earl translates their sentiment. You need us for controlling the ancient trees. I nod again, then launch into an explanation of my film project. As I talk, I can see the fear in Earl's eyes slowly being replaced by curiosity, maybe even a hint of interest. Especially when I get to the part about trading city resources, food, tools, things they can't easily get out here in the forest. It's like watching a flower bloom. Earl's posture relaxes, his eyes light up. Who knew? Turns out trolls and demons aren't so different after all. We all like a good deal. Klein Schemer POV. 2 days since Boss Arthur headed off to Gloomstone Forest, and I've been up to my horns in casting calls. Who knew finding the right extras and supporting roles could be such a headache? But we're getting there, slowly but surely. The elves were a mixed bag. Furful's on board as Arwen, thank the Dark Lords. Having a familiar face and a talented one at that is a relief. The rest of the elven roles? Not as tricky as I feared. Turns out there's no shortage of elves eager to be part of a Hellfire Studios production. Dwarves were a breeze. Plenty of them call Morningstar Kingdom home, and they're not shy about stepping in front of a camera. Though I didn't have to cast Gimli George, the boss's dwarf buddy, practically strong-armed his way into that role. Hope he can act as well as he can tinker. While casting elves and dwarves has been a breeze, finding our hobbits is proving to be a whole different kettle of fish. Boss Arthur was very specific about what he wants for these roles, especially for the main character. Hobbits, this fictional race boss dreamed up, they're not your average mythical creatures. Fortunately, we've found that half-human, half-dwarf individuals fit the bill pretty well. It's like Arthur had them in mind when he came up with hobbits. We've managed to cast a bunch of them for the supporting hobbit roles, but finding our Frodo Baggins? That's turning into a real headache. Arthur's description of Frodo is ridiculously specific. He needs to have this innocent look, but with a hint of determination in his eyes. Not too tall, not too short, even for a half-dwarf, with curly hair that's just the right shade of brown. We've seen dozens of hopefuls, but none of them quite hit the mark. Too tall, too gruff, not innocent-looking enough, the list of almosts is growing by the day. I'm starting to wonder if this perfect Frodo exists outside of Arthur's imagination. The worst part? I can't even fall back on using pure humans or pure dwarves. Arthur's adamant that the hobbits need to be distinct from both races. It's like trying to find a unicorn in a stable full of horses. Just when I'm about to tear my horns out over this Frodo casting, the perfect candidate walks through the door. This half-human, half-dwarf guy shows up and nails the audition. He's got that innocent look with a hint of determination that Boss Arthur's been harping on about. I'm practically salivating at the thought of finally filling this role. But before I can even open my mouth to offer him the part, a familiar voice pipes up beside me. What's your name? I nearly jump out of my skin. It's Boss Arthur, appearing out of nowhere like some kind of magical jack-in-the-box. Boss? You're back so soon? I stammer, trying to hide my surprise. Arthur just nods, his eyes fixed on our potential Frodo. My name is Kurt Vault, the actor says, looking a bit starstruck. Without missing a beat, Arthur says, you'll be having the role of Frodo Baggins. Welcome. And just like that, it's done. Days of searching, and Boss swoops in to make the final call in seconds. That's Arthur for you, always full of surprises. After Kurt leaves, Arthur turns to me. How's the casting here? I puff up a bit, proud of our progress. It's going well, boss. Arthur's smile has that hint of mischief I've come to recognize. Speaking of which, how's our human casting going in Empirica? Any good news? Oh, right. I nearly forgot about that in all the Frodo excitement. Actually, yet. Machi and the crew just sent word. They've locked in actors for Gandalf and Saruman. Seems Eric Roosevelt's been a big help with the casting over there. Very good, Arthur nods, looking pleased. He claps me on the shoulder. I'm heading back to the Eastern Province. We're fixing up a spot for the Hobbit houses there. Wait, what? Eastern Province? I thought you were in Gloomstone Forest, boss. Arthur just chuckles, like I've said something amusing. Time waits for no demon, Klein. We've got to keep moving, hit all our filming spots, get everything ready. Tomorrow, we're off to the Dark Province by the Ashen Plains. Before I can ask any more questions, he's gone, leaving me standing there with my mouth hanging open like some slack-jawed imp. As I watch him disappear around the corner, my brain starts to catch up. Hang on a second. Didn't he just say he came from the Eastern Province? And now he's going back? And tomorrow he'll be in a completely different part of the kingdom? I shake my head, trying to make the pieces fit. How in the nine hells is he moving around so fast? Chapter 51, Cat's already out of the bag. Arthur POV. The Eastern Province is a breath of fresh air compared to the other places I've been in the Morningstar Kingdom. Here in the Green Forest, it's like someone plucked Hobbiton straight out of my imagination and planted it right here in our realm. The rolling hills, the lush greenery, it's perfect for bringing the Shire to life. I've sunk a small fortune into this place already. $50,000 to a company in Grass City to build our hobbit houses. Most are just facades, all exterior, no interior, but Bilbo's place is the real deal, inside and out. It's got to be perfect, after all, it's where our story begins. Getting the permits was a whole adventure in itself. Had to schmooze the Lord of Grass City, convince him that letting a bunch of demons play make-believe in his forest was a good idea. But money talks, and $100,000 later, we're the proud owners of 100,000 square meters of prime Hobbiton real estate. $1,000 per square meter. It's enough to make even a demon's wallet weep. But I couldn't care less about the cost. This isn't just an expense, it's an investment. Sure, I could have just rented the land, but where's the vision in that? If Lord of the Rings takes off like I think it will, this place could become a gold mine. Just look at what happened with the Demonfather locations, tourists flocking in, eager to walk in Michael Corleone's footsteps. Imagine what they'll do for a chance to step into the Shire. It's been 5 days since we started building Hobbiton in the Green Forest. I've been busy overseeing filming locations across the kingdom. I've decided on the Shadow Plains in the Dark Province bordering Ashen Plains for Mordor. It fits the bill perfectly. Gloomstone Forest is pulling double duty. The shallow parts match Fangorn, while the deeper sections work well for Mirkwood. I've struck a deal with the trolls to help with some scenes later. Their tree manipulation skills will be useful. As for the primal orcs in the deep forest, that's been trickier. They seem to hate us demons especially. I've heard their chiefs and elders can speak common tongue, but I haven't made contact yet. I'll need to get stronger before I try reasoning with them. From what I've gathered, these orcs aren't as unreasonable as I first thought. They don't attack people randomly, instead hunting forest wildlife like goblins, boars, and monkeys for food. It's interesting, even the animals here can use magic. That makes hunting challenging for the orcs. There's still a lot to figure out, but we're making progress. One step at a time. An hour later, the construction crew chief calls me over. Mr. Morningstar, Bilbo's house is ready. Curiosity gets the better of me, and I head straight there. Stepping inside, I can't help but grin. It's like my drawings have come to life. Sure, it's missing some accessories, but the bones are there. We're really doing this. Outside, I gather the team. All right, I say, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. Tomorrow morning, we start filming. Get some rest tonight, it's going to be a busy day. A chorus of understood, boss rings out. Their faces are all business. Good. We'll need that focus. I glance over at our cast. Jeremy, our Bilbo, is chatting with some of the other half-human, half-dwarf actors we've roped in as extras. In the corner, Kurt Vault, our Frodo, stands quietly, taking it all in. Kid looks nervous, but he's got the right look. He'll do fine. Then there's Gerald Matthew, our Gandalf, watching everything with those piercing eyes of his. I've got to hand it to him, for a human from Empirica, he's been surprisingly cool about working with a bunch of demons. No condescension, just professionalism. I can respect that. I check my watch. Time to head back to the capital and grab some last-minute supplies. I make my way to the small hobbit house we won't be using for filming. From the outside, it looks just like the others, quaint, unassuming. Perfect for hiding a secret. Inside, it's bare. No frills, no accessories. Just an empty space and a well-concealed trapdoor. Only a handful of people know about this place, and they're not allowed in without me. Can't be too careful. I crouch down, running my hand along the floor until I feel the slight indentation. Pressing down and sliding it to the left, I hear a soft click. The trap door pops open, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. As I climb down, my weight on the ladder triggers the mechanism, and the door above me slides shut. Wouldn't want any curious actors, or nosy crew members, stumbling upon this. The hidden room is cool and quiet. In the center sits the inactive portal, waiting. I pull out the stone, whisper the activation phrase, and watch as the air shimmers and warps. One step, a moment of disorientation, and I'm in the studio's hidden room. Just like that, from the Shire to the city in the blink of an eye. Welcome back, boss. I turn to see George hunched over our computer project table, tinkering away as usual. Is our new colored camera ready? I ask, cutting straight to the chase. George's face lights up like a kid on Helmas morning. Ready? It's more than ready. Those babies are several times better than our first camera. With the budget you gave me, I've improved everything: color, handling, lenses, stands, the works. Where are they? We start filming tomorrow, I remind him. Wait here, George says, practically bouncing with excitement as he disappears into the other room. He returns, a camera balanced precariously between his shoulders. I win CE. Careful with that, I warn. I know, he grumbles, gently setting it down. But he's not done. George keeps shuttling back and forth, bringing out camera after camera, along with stands and what looks like enough equipment to film 3 movies simultaneously. I can't help but chuckle. You really outdid yourself, hey. George beams with pride. I even have backup lenses in case anything breaks, he says, patting a nearby case. And get this, using your blueprint for increasing the aspect ratio, I've managed to push these cameras to a 2.40:1 ratio. The lenses are crafted with a precise curvature that allows for a wider field of view without distortion. George holds up a roll of film, his eyes gleaming with pride. I've also successfully applied that idea from your blueprint. Like in the computer, I've put a memory in the camera, though it couldn't compare to our computer. You were able to do it? I ask, genuinely surprised. I knew George was good, but this is beyond my expectations. He nods enthusiastically. Yes. This memory can help correct color and other issues as we're filming. It's not perfect, we'll still need to edit afterwards, but it gives us a much better starting point. I can't help but smile, patting him on the shoulder. Good work, George. With the tech update out of the way, I shift gears. What's the news around here while I've been gone? I ask, leaning against the workbench. Staying informed is crucial, you never know when a bit of news might come in handy. George snaps out of his tech talk trance, blinking as if remembering where he is. Oh right, news. Actually. He rummages through the clutter on his desk, fishing out a newspaper. You might want to see this. I take the paper, and there I am, staring back at myself as Michael Corleone. The headline screams, Exiled Prince Arthur's Hellfire Studios embarks on biggest film project in world history. Millions already spent. Can lightning strike twice after the Demonfather? I can't help but smirk. Well, they're not wrong about the biggest part. But they're a bit late to the party, aren't they? George nods, then hands me another paper. There's more. This one's from closer to home. Lord Entry of Grass City reveals, Exiled Prince purchases 100,000 SQM in Green Forest for mystery film project. Hey, I mutter, shaking my head. Looks like Lord Entry couldn't keep our little deal to himself. Can't say I'm surprised. I skim through the articles, my mind already racing with potential implications. The cat's out of the bag now, for better or worse. Chapter 52, It's Just a Coincidence. Arthur POV. With the cameras safely delivered to Green Forest, we're on the brink of starting filming. As director, I've got to be on top of everything. But this time, I'm pulling double duty, I'm not just behind the camera, I'm in front of it too. Yet. Just like with the Demonfather where I played Michael Corleone, I'm taking on a role in The Lord of the Rings. Aragorn, to be precise. I've been prepping like crazy for this. Even dipped into the skills shop and snagged some entry-level acting skills for a cool 10,000 points. It's basic stuff, but combined with my own take on the character, it should do the trick. At least, that's what I'm telling myself. Later that day, I swing by the studio to check on things. I'm looking for Imkrag, our Gollum, and holy hellfire, I almost don't recognize him. In just a week, he's completely transformed. His once bushy afro is now thin and stringy, just like Gollum's. And his body? It's like he's shrunk and stretched at the same time, all sinewy muscle and bulging eyes. Those potions really did a number on him. Imkrag, I call out, and the crew turns, surprised to see me. Lilith pipes up, "You're back, boss." I nod, not bothering to explain my comings and goings. My eyes are fixed on Imkrag. It's uncanny how much he looks like the Gollum in my mind's eye. "You've really embraced the role, Imkrag," I say, impressed despite myself. "That's some serious dedication." Imkrag looks down, seemingly embarrassed by the praise. "I'm honored that you like it, you're high," he catches himself. "I mean, boss." I make a mental note to check on his health. Those potions might be effective, but they're not exactly gentle. Still, seeing Imkrag's transformation, I can't help but feel a surge of excitement. If this is the level of commitment we're working with, this film is going to be something truly special. After wrapping up my chat with Imkrag about his health, I turn to Lilith. "How's the cast doing? Everyone settled in okay?" Lilith nods, a hint of pride in her voice. "Yes, boss. We've got everyone comfortable, especially Ms. Evergreen and Mr. Darkflame." "Great. Where are they now?" "In the rehearsal room," Lilith replies. I make my way down the corridor, lost in thought. The walls are plastered with the Demonfather posters, Don Vito's steely gaze, Michael's calculating stare. A smile tugs at my lips. This film changed everything for us. Without it, we'd still be crammed in that tiny warehouse, dreaming big on a shoestring budget. As I push open the rehearsal room door, all eyes turn to me. There's a shift in the air, a mix of excitement and nerves. Furful gives me a warm smile, already used to my antics from our previous work. Rupert, too, seems at ease. The others look like they've seen a ghost. I wave casually, trying to break the tension. "Don't mind me, just popping in." I make my way over to Furful, unable to resist a bit of playful charm. "My lady," I say with a grin, taking her hand and giving her ring a quick peck. "How's life treating you post-Demonfather?" Furful laughs, a sound that never fails to lighten the mood. "Oh, you know, the usual chaos. Though I must say, this new gentlemanly act is quite the surprise. What happened to the scruffy director I used to know?" I chuckle, shaking my head. "Just showing my appreciation. It means a lot that you chose this project over all those fancy human productions." "Well," Furful says with a twinkle in her eye, "someone has to keep you on your toes, don't they?" Rupert chimes in, his voice carrying a hint of reverence, "It's an honor to be part of Prince Arthur's project." I turn to him, unable to suppress a chuckle. Well, Rupert. Looks like someone's learned the fine art of flattery." Furful giggles, and I catch a faint blush creeping up Rupert's cheeks. "It's not just flattery," Rupert insists, straightening up. "This project of yours, it's ambitious. Groundbreaking, even." I can't help but smile at his earnestness. "Funny, isn't it? You turned down Sunny because you thought the project wouldn't amount to much. Look how that turned out." I lean in, adding with a playful wink, "You're not trying to jinx us by singing praises now, are you?" Rupert's blush deepens. "Rejecting Sunny was my mistake, I admit that." He pauses, his expression growing serious. "But I'm not jinxing anything. I genuinely believe in this project, Arthur. Even if the media tries to tear it down, I'm behind it 100%. I reach out, giving his shoulder a friendly pat. "Just focus on nailing your part, Rupert. That's all I ask." He nods, a determined glint in his eye. "Of course. I've been living and breathing Boromir. I think I can do him justice." "That's what I like to hear," I say, feeling a surge of excitement for what's to come. With this level of dedication from the cast, we might just pull off something spectacular. I turn to Furful, curiosity piqued. "And you, my lady? How are you finding your role?" Furful's smile is warm, but there's a glint of something in her eye. "I'm doing well, thank you. Though I am curious about something." She pauses, her gaze sharpening. "Arwen, my character, is Aragorn's love interest. Who, may I ask, will be playing Aragorn? I can't help the mischievous grin that spreads across my face as I point to myself, saying nothing. Rupert's eyes widen. You're playing Aragorn? I nod, watching their reactions. Furful doesn't seem surprised, but her lips quirk up in amusement. I'm starting to notice a pattern here, Arthur. Oh? What pattern? I ask, feigning innocence. You as Aragorn, me as his lover, Arwen, she says, her tone playful but with an undercurrent of something else. Doesn't this feel familiar? Rupert chimes in, realization dawning on his face. Now that you mention it, weren't you two lovers in the Demonfather as well? Furful nods, her gaze never leaving mine. Indeed we were. And now, here we are again. Be honest with me, Arthur. Are there any underlying motives I should know about? She raises an eyebrow, her expression a mix of amusement and genuine curiosity. I feel a flush creeping up my neck. What? No, it's just a coincidence, I say, perhaps a bit too quickly. Rupert, sensing the tension, starts backing away. I think I know what you're up to, Your Highness, he says with a knowing smirk. But I'll leave you two to it. And with that, he's gone, leaving me alone with Furful. I watch him go, suddenly very aware of Furful's presence beside me. What's he talking about? I mutter, more to myself than anyone else. Furful's laugh is soft, but it fills the space between us. Oh, Arthur, she says, her voice tinged with amusement. For someone so clever, you can be quite oblivious sometimes. I turn back to her, feeling oddly vulnerable. I have no idea what you mean, I say, but even I can hear the uncertainty in my voice. Chapter 53, LOTR Action. Arthur POV. The makeshift studio buzzes with nervous energy as we prepare for our first scene. I scan the set, taking in every detail. The crew scurries about, making last-minute adjustments, while the cast runs through their lines one final time. My eyes land on Shafel, our Galadriel. She's chatting with Furful, they seem to be getting along well. I have to admit, while Furful will always hold a special place in my heart, Shafel has a certain ethereal quality that's perfect for Galadriel. It's not just about beauty, it's about presence, and Shafel has it in spades. Taking a deep breath, I clap my hands, drawing everyone's attention. All right, folks, this is it. We're about to start rolling. Everyone to your places. The chatter dies down as the three elven actors, Shafel and two male elves whose names escape me at the moment, take their positions. I make my way to the director's chair, feeling the weight of expectation settle on my shoulders. Quiet on set, I call out, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. A&E action. The scene springs to life. Our elven actors slip on their rings with practiced grace, their expressions shifting to one of wonder. The camera zooms in on Shafel, capturing every nuance of her fascination. I nod to Elizabeth, our resident wind mage. Cast the wind spell. A gentle breeze sweeps across the set, making the actor's hair dance. But suddenly, cough. Jason, one of our male elves, chokes on the unexpectedly strong gust. Cut. I call out, unable to hold back a chuckle. The set erupts in laughter, the tension breaking like a dam. As we reset for another take, Jason approaches me, worry etched on his face. I messed up. Will I be replaced? I shake my head, still grinning. No, no. It's not your fault. I turn to our overzealous wind mage. Elizabeth, try dialing it back a notch, yet. Yes, boss, she nods, looking slightly sheepish. Jason still seems on edge, so I give his shoulder a reassuring pat. Hey, don't sweat it. If you're worried about wasted film, don't be. We'll use it for bloopers. Bloopers. Jason echoes, confusion replacing worry. Yeah, you know, funny outtakes. Trust me, the audience loves that stuff. I flash him a conspiratorial wink. Now, let's nail this scene, shall we? As everyone retakes their positions, I can't help but feel a surge of affection for this ragtag bunch. We might not be the most polished crew in the business, but damn if we don't have heart. All right, people. Take two. A&D. Action. The first scene wraps quickly, just a few seconds of the elves gazing at their rings in wonder, Shafel's golden hair dancing in the magical breeze. It's short, but powerful. I can already envision how it'll set the tone for the entire film. We move on, scene by scene, each one a piece of the puzzle that will become our epic tale. The furnace where the rings are forged glows with an otherworldly light, casting long shadows across the set. Next up are the dwarves. 7 of them, decked out in intricate costumes that would make any dwarf lord proud. They cradle their rings, their eyes gleaming with a mix of awe and greed that sends a shiver down my spine. It's perfect. The human kings follow, 6 noble figures succumbing to the allure of power. Then come the demons, our stand-ins for the 9 mortal men. For their scene, I've gone all out with the set design. Flames lick at the edges of the frame, shadows dance ominously. It's deliciously over the top, and I love every second of it. Hours fly by as we shoot and reshoot, perfecting each moment. By the time we wrap, I'm exhausted but exhilarated. We're making progress. There's just one piece missing, Sauron forging the One Ring in Mount Doom. But that can wait. The armor will make Sauron easy enough to cast, but first, we need our army of orcs. As I wrap up for the day, my mind's already racing ahead. Casting orcs in a world where they actually exist. I've got to admit, it's a fascinating challenge. But fascinating doesn't mean easy. A few days back, I bit the bullet and spent a whopping 200,000 entertainment points on a powerful spell called the Nether Surge. It's some seriously dark magic that boosts mana and magical power. Now my entertainment points are practically on life support. Even with the Demonfather still raking in cash, 170 million and counting, a record breaker if I do say so myself, the influx of points has slowed to a trickle. I'm down to about 10,000 points. It's still growing, sure, but nowhere near the flood it was before. Was it worth it? I'd like to think so. I've been holed up in the training area, practicing this new spell until I'm blue in the face. It's all for the orcs, though. From what I know, they only respect raw power. So that's exactly what I'm going to give them. The plan is simple: walk into orc territory, flex some magical muscle, and hope they're impressed enough to willingly join my little film project. Filming's never a walk in the park, but we're managing. It's funny how a few seconds on screen can eat up hours of our lives. But that's the magic of cinema, I suppose. With the interior scenes wrapped, it's time to head back to Green Forest. I don't need to drag the whole studio team along, I've got another crew camped out there, ready and waiting. It's a bit extravagant, having 2 full teams, but hey, that's what those millions in the bank are for, right? I step through the portal, and bam, I'm back in Green Forest. The crew there jumps like they've been caught with their hands in the cookie jar. Guess they were enjoying the downtime a bit too much. Boss, you're here already? Welcome back, one of them stammers, trying to look busy. I can't help but chuckle. Alright, guys, vacation's over. Time to earn your keep. Morning breaks over our makeshift shire, and we dive right into Gandalf's arrival. The old wizard's meeting with Frodo is pivotal, setting the stage for everything to come. Watching Kurt bring Frodo to life is something else. Sure, he flubs a line here and there, and we have to reshoot a few times, but there's an authenticity to his performance that gives me goosebumps. The kid's a natural, no two ways about it. As night falls, the set transforms into a bustle of activity. It's Bilbo's 11th birthday, and we're pulling out all the stops. The air crackles with excitement and magic. See, fireworks in this world aren't just gunpowder and pretty colors. They're imbued with honest-to-goodness spells, capable of conjuring fantastical displays that would make even the most jaded pyrotechnician weep with joy. It's costing us a small fortune, but the authenticity it brings to the scene is priceless. People here will see these magical fireworks and instantly connect. It's not just special effects, it's a slice of their reality, elevated to cinematic proportions. But I couldn't resist adding a touch from my past life. Working with our wizard department, we've crafted a special firework. It's a dragon, just like in the original film, brought to life with a complex cocktail of illusion spells and other magical trickery I can barely wrap my head around. The scrolls for this particular firework cost more than some people's yearly salary, but as I watch it soar over our Shire set, scattering hobbits, well, our half-human half-dwarf actors, in its wake, I know it's worth every penny. This, right here, is the magic of movie making. It's taking the familiar and making it extraordinary. As I call cut. On another take, I can't help but grin. We're not just making a movie, we're creating a whole new world. Chapter 54, More Difficult. Arthur POV. The sky above our set explodes with color, each firework more dazzling than the last. Even from here, I can see the awe on the faces of the folks from Grass City. It's a spectacle all right, one that's drawing a bit too much attention for comfort. Demon folk start creeping onto our set, their curiosity getting the better of them. It's wreaking havoc on our carefully crafted scenes. Keep them back, I call out to my team. We can't afford to lose these shots. My crew springs into action, forming a human, demon barrier. But these onlookers are persistent buggers. Watching Clara, one of my crew, get knocked over by an overeager fiend demon, something in me snaps. Time to bring out the big guns. I activate the nether surge, feeling dark energy crackle around me. The air grows heavy, thick with power. Even I'm a bit taken aback by the intensity. The fiend demon who pushed Clara freezes, his eyes going wide with fear. He's not the only one, I can see the terror rippling through the crowd, even my own team looks shaken. Go away, I say, my voice unnaturally calm. It's like I've flipped a switch. The crowd parts, demons scurrying away like they've seen, something scarier than themselves. As the set clears, I let the power ebb away. Damn, that spell packs a punch. Mental note, maybe tone it down a notch next time. Don't want to give the crew nightmares. But as I help Clara to her feet, I can't help but think, if this is how demons react, how will the orcs handle it? Guess I'll find out soon enough. For now, though, we've got a party to film. Alright, I call out, clapping my hands. Back to work. The fireworks resume, painting the night sky with bursts of color and magic. From my vantage point, I can hear snippets of conversation from the now subdued Grass City crowd. Did you see that? I never expected the weak prince to have such intimidating power, one voice whispers. Another chimes in, maybe we're just imagining it. It's probably because we've seen the Demonfather. We're confusing him with Michael. You're right, a third agrees. It must be Michael we're scared of, not the prince. That's the only explanation that makes sense. I can't help but chuckle to myself. They've written off the nether surge as some sort of collective hallucination. Fine by me, less explaining to do. With the distractions gone, we power through the rest of the night's shoot. It's grueling work, but seeing Bilbo's party come to life makes it all worth it. As we finally wrap up, exhaustion hits me like a ton of bricks. My crew and I trudge to our tents, dead on our feet but satisfied with a night's work well done. Don't forget the protection spell, I remind them, stifling a yawn. Last thing we need is a pack of hellhounds crashing our beauty sleep. One of the crew members nods sleepily. On it, boss. No hounds are getting past us tonight. Hellhounds roam the green forest in packs, their glowing eyes piercing through the mist. But they're not the only creatures to watch out for. The thunder bears stand tall among the trees, their massive forms crackling with electric energy. One swipe of their paws can send bolts of lightning through an unsuspecting traveler. The forest floor crawls with luminous slimes, gelatinous beings that pulse with an eerie, internal light. Shadow cats prowl the darker areas, their fur absorbing light and making them nearly invisible in the gloom. High in the canopy, sprite monkeys chatter and leap from branch to branch, trailing sparks of magical energy in their wake. And in the deepest parts of the forest, ancient crystal tortoises lumber about, their shells encrusted with valuable, magical gems. Thoughts of forest creatures fade as exhaustion takes over. I'm out like a light the moment my head hits the pillow. We've wrapped Bilbo's party and Gandalf's ominous warning to Frodo. Not bad for a night's work. Tomorrow's another beast entirely, we're tackling the Black Riders chasing Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. It's going to be intense. Morning comes too soon. The set's buzzing as we prep for the Black Riders scene. I give our Nazgul a once-over, impressed by the armor my art team's cooked up. It's menacing as hell, perfect. How's it feel in there? I ask one of the extras, eyeing the hefty get-up. Manageable, sir, comes the muffled reply. Fair enough. I turn to the crew, clapping my hands to get their attention. All right, people. Places. We're rolling in 5. The set falls silent as everyone takes their positions. I feel my expression harden, slipping into what the crew jokingly calls my director mode. Ready when you are, boss, my AD calls out. With a final glance around the set, I give the nod. A&E action. It's been over a few weeks since we started filming, and we've made decent progress. We've captured Frodo's escape and Gandalf's return to Isengard. The Isengard scenes, now those were a challenge and a half. I've sank $30,000 into building the exterior of Orthan, Saruman's imposing tower. It's just a facade, mind you, all show and no substance. We erected it near our Shire set, taking advantage of the 100,000 square meters we've got in Green Forest. It's far enough not to ruin the Shire's quaint vibe, but close enough to be convenient. We have a model of Isengard for the sweeping shots, so capturing the city's vantage point won't be a problem. The tower itself is real enough, but everything beyond is smoke and mirrors, or in this case, magical projections and clever camera work. It's not perfect, but it's selling the illusion well enough. The interior scenes with Saruman and Gandalf's magical duel were easier to pull off. Having actual wizards for actors has its perks, they can sling real spells. Of course, we've amped things up for dramatic effect. Can't have our wizards duel looking like a schoolyard scuffle, after all. It's a constant juggling act, balancing realism with spectacle. But seeing it all come together on film, it's worth every headache and every dollar spent. Though it's becoming clear that bringing Lord of the Rings to life is a whole different beast compared to the Demonfather. Sure, having actual magic at our disposal helps, but it's a double-edged sword. The illusions we're using are burning through our budget faster than a dragon through a village. And while real magic makes fight scenes more authentic, it's also raising the bar for what looks convincing. It's a constant battle to make things look spectacular enough for a fantasy epic, but still believable in a world where magic is commonplace. Take Saruman and Gandalf's confrontation. In my old world, Saruman's telekinesis was mind-blowing. Here? It's Tuesday. I had to completely reimagine the scene, amping up the magical duel to something that would actually impress our audience. The result is intense, maybe even more so than the original, but getting there nearly broke my brain. This obsession with authenticity is slowing us down considerably. We're weeks into filming and barely halfway through. If we had CGI, we'd be flying through scenes. But everything's practical effects here. It's painstaking work, but the results, well, they speak for themselves. Today's a big day, though. It's finally time for my debut as Aragorn. As I suit up, I can't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. It's one thing to direct a fantasy epic. It's another to star in it. Here's hoping I can pull it off without making a complete fool of myself. Chapter 55, Genuine Fear. Arthur POV. We've taken over a tavern in Horn Village, just outside Grass City, rebranding it as the Prancing Pony for our shoot. The air's thick with anticipation as we prep for the ring scene. Remember, the ring needs to levitate just enough to land on Kit's finger, I remind the effects team. It's got to look accidental, but deliberate. You know what I mean. Machi, one of the crew members I rehired, nods confidently. We've got the trajectory down pat, boss. It'll slip onto Kit's finger like it's got a mind of its own. I can't help but feel a bit glad. Bringing these grads back was a smart move. Their mix of magical know-how and technical skills is proving invaluable. Good. We're shooting this in slow motion, so you'll need to control Kit's fall too. Make it look dramatic. Got it, boss, the team choruses. As everyone takes their positions, I feel myself slipping into character. The acting skills from the System Skills shop are kicking in, but there's something else too. Playing Aragorn, it's hitting close to home. An exiled prince, carrying the weight of a legacy he's not sure he wants. The parallels aren't lost on me. I draw on my own experiences, the feeling of being an outsider in my own family, the struggle to prove myself. But there's also a determination there, a resolve to forge my own path. As I settle into Aragorn's skin, I feel a strange mix of vulnerability and strength. Ready when you are, boss, my AD calls. I take a deep breath, centering myself. Action. At my signal, the set springs to life. The extras settle into their roles, while the actual tavern regulars just, well, continue being themselves. Sometimes, reality is the best acting coach. I hunker down in my corner, deliberately making myself stand out by trying not to. It's a delicate balance, being conspicuously inconspicuous. This version of Aragorn is a bit different from the original. He's half demon, half human, still heir to Isildur, but with an added layer of complexity. The Dúnedain, his people, aren't exactly rolling out the red carpet for him. It's a wrinkle that adds some spice to the character. Kurt, in his role as Frodo, catches sight of me. He does a decent job of looking unnerved by the demon in the corner. As he leans in to question the waiter about me, I fix my gaze on him. In that moment, I'm not seeing Kurt the actor anymore. I'm Aragorn, sizing up Frodo, the unexpected bearer of the One Ring. There's a weight to this interaction that goes beyond the script. It's the meeting of two outcasts, each carrying a burden they never asked for. Kurt POV. Being on the receiving end of Arthur's intense stare is more unnerving than I'd anticipated. It's not just acting anymore, I'm genuinely intimidated. There's something in his eyes that reminds me of Michael Corleone right before all hell breaks loose. It's chilling. I fidget with the ring, trying to look nervous, which, honestly, isn't much of a stretch right now. Then I hear Sam, played by Rory, call out Frodo Baggins. Just like we rehearsed. That's my cue. I scramble to my feet, aiming for a hasty retreat. As I weave through the crowd of extras and actual tavern patrons, I prepare for the fall. This is the tricky part. Suddenly, I feel the subtle tug of magic. Machi and the effects team are working their spells, making my fall look natural while keeping me from actually face-planting. It's a strange sensation, like I'm moving through molasses. The ring floats alongside me, seemingly defying gravity. As my hand stretches out, the ring slips onto my finger with eerie precision. The moment it's on, the magical support vanishes and I hit the floor with a convincing thud. In an instant, the illusion spell kicks in, and to everyone else, I've vanished into thin air. It's a surreal experience, being invisible yet fully present. Cut. Arthur's voice breaks the spell, so to speak. As I pick myself up, I can't help but feel a mix of relief and excitement. I've pulled it off in just one shot. Arthur helps me to my feet, a hint of surprise in his voice. Not bad, Kurt. Didn't expect you to nail it in one take. Thanks, boss, I manage, feeling a mix of pride and relief. But the moment's short-lived. Arthur's next words send a chill down my spine. For the next scene, I need you to amp up the fear. Think you can handle that? I hesitate. Being more scared? It sounds simple, but terror isn't exactly my forte. I'll do my best, I promise, not feeling particularly confident. We start rolling again, and I try my hardest to look terrified as I slip off the ring. But something's off. Cut. Arthur's voice rings out. He approaches, shaking his head. You looked more scared when I was staring you down earlier. What happened? I swallow hard. Well, to be honest, I was actually scared of you back then. Arthur sighs, running a hand through his hair. Okay, new tactic. Imagine I'm still staring at you while you take off the ring. Can you do that? We try again. And again. And again. But it's not working. How am I supposed to be terrified of a simple gold band? After the fifth take, Arthur's expression changes. All right, I've got an idea to help you out. Before I can ask what he means, we're rolling again. I brace myself, trying to summon some fear for the camera. Suddenly, a wave of terror washes over me. It's visceral, primal, like every nightmare I've ever had rolled into one. My eyes widen, my breath catches in my throat. With trembling hands, I yank the ring off my finger. As quickly as it came, the feeling fades. I'm left gasping, confused, and shaken. What just happened? Arthur POV. It worked like a charm. Watching Kurt yank off the ring, his face a mask of genuine terror, I can't help but chuckle to myself. The Nether Search spell did its job beautifully, even if this wasn't its primary function. The spell's main purpose is to amplify magical power and mana, but its side effect of instilling fear in others is proving quite useful. All it took was a few muttered words, directing the spell's energy towards Kurt, and boom, instant terror, picture perfect for the camera. During the review, the crew and cast are falling over themselves praising Kurt's acting. I don't bother correcting them. Sometimes, what they don't know won't hurt them. As we wrap up the scene where Aragorn reprimands Frodo, Kurt approaches me, his face a mix of confusion and suspicion. Boss, I felt terrified earlier, he says, eyeing the prop ring warily. Did this thing do something? I plaster on a reassuring smile, patting his shoulder. Don't worry about it. Let's focus on the next scene, shall we? But I can see it in his eyes, he's not buying it. That look screams I know you know something. Well, Can't be helped. As long as we get the shots we need, a little mystery won't hurt anyone. Besides, what's a fantasy epic without some real magic behind the scenes? Chapter 56, Overtime. Arthur POV. The past few days have been intense. The scenes with Kurt, Aragorn protecting Frodo from the Black Riders, the fight sequences, they've been challenging, but seeing the footage, it's been worth every drop of sweat. Yesterday, we wrapped the scenes of Aragorn and the hobbits making their way towards Rivendell, with Frodo barely hanging on. Today, it's Furfyl's big debut as Arwen. The effects team's working overtime to amp up Furfyl's natural charm for the camera. Not that she needs much help in that department. When we get to Arwen's reunion with Aragorn, I decide to dial up the intimacy. Let me handle this, Furfyl says, her hand finding mine with a tenderness that feels all too real. I meet her gaze, letting Aragorn's centuries of longing seep into my expression. With a nod towards Kurt, I murmur, "He's yours." Furfyl smiles, and before she can react, I lean in and plant a quick kiss on her lips. "Go," I whisper. The surprise in Furfyl's eyes is genuine, but she doesn't miss a beat. She nods, then mounts her horse, Kurt in tow, and gallops off. "Cut!" I call out, fighting to keep the grin off my face. That little improvisation should add some nice spice to the scene. Next up, we've got the Black Riders chasing Arwen. As the crew resets, I catch Furfyl giving me a look that says we'll be having words later. But there's a hint of a smile there too. This scene's going to be a challenge to film, but after that last take, I'm feeling pretty good about our chances. After hours of grueling work, we finally wrapped the chase scene. Now it's time to tackle Rivendell. The set's just been completed in a secluded part of Green Forest, another chunk of land I've acquired for the project. Most of the elven architecture is just for show, facades propped up against the forest backdrop. We've filled in the gaps with magical illusions, creating a seamless blend of practical effects and arcane trickery. As I review the footage, I can't help but feel a swell of pride. It's not CGI, but somehow, it looks even better than what I remember from my past life. There's a tangibility to it, a sense of wonder that feels truly magical. The ethereal glow of the buildings, the way the light dances through the illusory trees, it's breathtaking. And the best part? It's real. Well, as real as anything gets in this world of magic and monsters. Looking at the playback, I can already imagine how audiences will react. This isn't just a movie set, it's a doorway to another world. And we're the ones who build it. Changing the topic, today's shoot was interesting. The Council of Elrond scene is pivotal, and most of the cast nailed it. George, though? Let's just say his Gimli leaves something to be desired. But hey, Gimli's supposed to be a bit rough around the edges, so maybe George's lack of finesse is actually a stroke of genius. After a few takes and some not-so-subtle coaching, we managed to get it in the can. With filming wrapped for the day, I decided to sneak back to the capital. There's been something nagging at the back of my mind, Harry Potter. It should have hit the shelves about a week ago, and I'm itching to see how it's doing. I throw on a hood before heading out. Being recognized as Michael from the Demonfather would throw a wrench in my plans. Instead of heading straight to Hellfire Stories, they think I'm off filming in the boonies. I make my way to one of the bookstores I bought to distribute our publications. As I push open the door, the bell chimes and the receptionist greets me with a cheerful, "Welcome." I nod back, making a beeline for the shelves. My eyes scan the spines, looking for that telltale title. I scan the fantasy section, my eyes darting from spine to spine. Nothing. I double-check, triple-check, but the result's the same. No Harry Potter in sight. Weird, I mutter, stroking my chin. It should be out by now. What gives? A knot forms in my stomach. Did something go wrong with the publication? As I'm lost in thought, the demoness at the reception desk pipes up. "Having trouble finding something, mister?" I turn, nodding. "Yeah, actually. I'm looking for a book called Harry Potter." "Harry Potter?" she echoes, and for a moment, my heart sinks. But then she continues, "Oh, you're out of luck today. That one sold out a few hours ago." "Sold out?" I repeat, not quite believing my ears. She nods enthusiastically. "It's become insanely popular. Book lovers all over the city are clamoring for it." Before she can finish, the door chimes and another demon bursts in. "Book lady. Any restock on Harry Potter yet?" The receptionist shakes her head. Not until tomorrow, I'm afraid. The newcomer groans. I've been waiting since yesterday. As the receptionist and the new customer chat about restocking, my mind races. Out of stock? This isn't just good news, it's fantastic. Harry Potter didn't just make it to publication, it's flying off the shelves. A smile tugs at my lips as I slip out of the store, unnoticed in the commotion. The book's popularity seems to have spread by word of mouth. I didn't focus much on marketing, too wrapped up in the Lord of the Rings production. But somehow, it's found its audience anyway. As I walk down the street, my grin widens. This is just the beginning. If the first book is this successful without a major push, imagine what we could do with a proper marketing campaign for the sequels. In my past life, I knew Harry Potter was a phenomenon. But to see it happening again, in this world, with my own hands, it's something else entirely. I make a mental note to check in with Hellfire Stories soon. We need to ramp up production, maybe even start planning for book 2. Grigori POV. Move it, you lazy demons. We don't have time to slack off. I bellow at my workers as we churn out copy after copy of Harry Potter. It's been days of this madness, and I'm about ready to tear my horns out. When we first released the book, I didn't think much of it. Relax, I told my team. We don't need to bust our tails for the exiled prince's little pet project. It'll never catch on. Oh, how wrong I was. First day? A trickle of sales. Second day? A bit better, but nothing to write home about. I was feeling pretty smug about my prediction. Then the third day hit. Hundreds of copies, flying off the shelves. I chalked it up to a fluke, a lucky break. But the fourth day? Thousands. And it just kept climbing from there. Now we can't keep the damn thing in stock, and I'm cracking the whip to keep up with demand. Just as we're hitting our stride, Marbus from distribution bursts in, demanding more copies. Can't you see we're working our tails off here? I snap, stress making my voice crack. As Marbus slinks out, I can't help but wonder, what's the deal with this book? Is it really that good? Or has the whole city gone mad? One thing's for sure, I never thought I'd be losing sleep over some human boy wizard. Thanks a lot, Your Ex-Highness. As I'm about to get back to overseeing the printing, another interruption comes in the form of a messenger from Hellfire Stories headquarters. Mr. Grigori, the young demon pants, clearly out of breath. I've got urgent news from the main office. I barely suppress a groan. What now? We're already working at full capacity here. The messenger swallows hard. They want to double the print run. Effective immediately. For a moment, I'm sure I've misheard. Double? Are they out of their minds? But the messenger just nods, looking as bewildered as I feel. They say pre-orders for the next shipment are through the roof. We need to meet demand or we'll lose sales to copycats. I slump against the nearest printing press, my mind reeling. Double the output? With what resources? What staff? But then a thought hits me. If demand is this high, if we're doubling production, that means our profit shares will skyrocket too. Suddenly, I'm filled with a new energy. I straighten up, clapping my hands to get everyone's attention. Listen up, you ink-stained imps. We've got a new target. Double production, starting now. Anyone who can't keep up can kiss their bonus goodbye. Chapter 57, Adventurers and Orcs. Arthur POV. After weeks of filming scenes that didn't involve orcs, I've finally decided it's time to face them head-on. I've been testing my powers with Nether Surge in private, and if I'm gauging this right based on the ancient power scales, I should be at Arcane Scholar level. That's enough juice to take on 100 Arcane students or a dozen junior mages. The catch? I can only maintain Nether Surge for a limited time. Sure, practice will extend that limit and boost its power, but it's still a finite resource. Without it, I'm barely scraping by at junior mage peak tier. It's a sobering thought. I'm about to walk into orc territory with power that's impressive by modern standards, but would have been considered entry-level back in the day. Still, it's what I've got to work with. Truth is, power levels aren't what they used to be. The old power level terminology is practically ancient history now. With billions of people in the world, mana's spread thin, like butter scraped over too much bread. These days, an average person can't even hit junior mage level, let alone reach arcane scholar status. It's the upper crust, nobles, royals and the kids of big-shot politicians and business tycoons in non-royal countries, who get to play with the big leagues. They've got access to those rare potions that cost more than most families make in a year. It's no wonder the Demonfather struck such a chord. We're living in a world that's slowly leaving the magical age behind, focusing more on martial arts and military tech. Dwarven weapons are the new hot ticket, even the high-end stuff can tear through an arcane scholar's shield like it's tissue paper. In a world where a good gun trumps most magic, those old power levels don't mean much anymore. It's a brave new world out there, and the rules of the game have changed. Before confronting the orcs, I made a quick trip back to the city via portal. First stop, the weapon shop. With my newly acquired sword skills, courtesy of the skill shop, I needed a blade to match. I also picked up some decent armor, no point in being a walking target. Back in Gloomstone Forest, I suit up. Decked out in gleaming armor, sword at my hip, face hidden behind a mask and hood, I feel like I've stepped straight out of a fantasy novel. Strolling into the nearby town, I make my way to the Adventurers Guild. As I push open the doors, I catch snippets of conversation. Get a load of that armor. Must be some rich kid playing hero. Yeah, only nobles or big-shot business heirs can afford gear like that. I stifle a chuckle. If only they knew. But I'm not here just to show off. No. I need a crew, fellow adventurers to back me up in orc territory. Sure, I could probably take on a decent number of orcs with nether surge, but why tempt fate? Better to have backup and not need it than need it and not have it. Plus, there are practical considerations. Someone's got to carry supplies, and it wouldn't hurt to have extra hands for hauling back monster parts to sell to the guild. A little side hustle never hurt anyone, right? Having a few adventurers along means I can conserve my energy for when it really counts. The deep parts of Gloomstone Forest are no joke, we're talking miles of potentially hostile territory. I'll need to be at full strength when we finally encounter the orcs, which means pacing myself on the journey there. As I scan the guild hall, I'm looking for a mix of skills. Maybe a tracker who knows the forest, a brawny type for heavy lifting, and someone with healing abilities wouldn't go amiss. It's like casting for a film, really. Each role needs to bring something unique to the table. I approach the guild master, keeping my voice low and mysterious. I'm looking for capable adventurers for a dangerous mission into the deep forest. Any recommendations? The guild master eyes me skeptically, probably trying to gauge if I'm some rich kid with a death wish or the real deal. After a moment, he nods towards a corner of the room. Those three over there might be what you're looking for. They're experienced, and they work well together. But I warn you, stranger, they don't come cheap. I smile behind my mask. Money's the least of my worries. I approach the trio the guild master pointed out. There's a young man in worn armor, clearly a warrior type. Next to him, a hulking brute in mage robes, an interesting combo. The third is a young woman in ordinary-looking clothes, though I can sense the magical enhancements woven into the fabric. What's your deal, rich boy? The warrior calls out as I near their table. No point in beating around the bush. I'm in the market for some capable adventurers. The brute chimes in, what for, mate? Lookin' to play explorer. Maybe he wants a guided tour, the woman adds with a smirk. They share a laugh at my expense. Fine by me, let them underestimate me. Actually, yeah. A tour sounds about right, I say, playing along. You lot familiar with Gloomstone Forest? The brute's brow furrows. Gloomstone Forest. That's right. I need to get to the deeper parts. Looking for a guide who knows their way around. The woman chuckles. The deeper parts? What, are rich kids so bored these days? Yeah, must have a death wish, the warrior adds. I cut through their laughter with 6 simple words, I'll pay well for the right skills. That shuts them up quick. They exchange glances, suddenly all business. Now that I've got your attention, I continue, let's talk specifics. What can you bring to the table? After some back and forth, I've got my team sorted. There's Gordon, the young warrior with a chip on his shoulder. Charles is our brute mage, built like a tank but with a knack for spell casting. Marjorie rounds out the trio, a chatty young woman with healing talents. Marjorie's non-stop chatter reveals she's an orphan from a Solaris church. Her healing skills are top-notch, so I hire her on the spot. Charles, besides his magical prowess, is built like an ox. He's perfect for hauling our food supplies. Gordon, it turns out, used to hunt in Gloomstone Forest for a living. His knowledge of the terrain could be invaluable. With our roles set, we head out for orc territory. Our first encounter is with a group of goblins. I hang back, letting my hired hands prove their worth. They handle it well enough without my intervention. Later, we face off against a pack of hellhounds. This time, the adventurers struggle. Seeing them clearly out of their depth, and knowing they've been looking down on me, I decide to show my hand. Their surprised faces when they see what I'm capable of are almost comical. 2 days and nights into our journey, and we're still not in orc territory. I had no idea it would be this far. Even with our tree-leaping shortcut, we're still a considerable distance away. The next day, we finally spot signs of orc territory. Gordon turns to me, his face grim. We're here. These orcs are no joke. You sure you want to go through with this? We're crouched behind a bush, eyeing the orc tribe in the distance. I can feel the tension radiating from my companions. Of course, I reply, flashing a smile. No point turning back now. We've come too far. Marjorie pipes up, curiosity getting the better of her. Why do you even need to mess with orcs anyway? I chuckle, keeping my cards close to my chest. It's none of your business. She rolls her eyes. Ugh. You rich kids always do whatever you want when you're bored. Heh, is all I offer in response. Charles, ever the pragmatist, chimes in. We'll be ready whenever you are. I shake my head. No. You guys stay put here. Take care of the supplies. I'll face the orcs alone. Are you serious? Marjorie gasps, then quickly covers her mouth, realizing how loud she was. Dead serious, I confirm. Before they can protest further, I leap from our hiding spot, facing down about a dozen orcs. I can hear Marjorie trying to stop me, but Gordon holds her back. As I land, I can't help but admire the orcs. Hey! Really perfect for my film. I mutter, taking in their appearance. They're exactly what I need for a Lord of the Rings. One orc, not appreciating my scrutiny, charges with an angry yuga. I activate Nether Surge, easily parrying his attack and kicking him away. Time to show these orcs, and my skeptical companions, what I'm really made of. Chapter 58, Orc Tribe. Marjorie POV. He's a crazy rich guy, but he seems quite powerful. I can't help but exclaim, watching the rich kid take on the orcs single-handedly. Gordon nods, impressed despite himself. I gotta admit, he is very skilled. Yet. I even felt a spooky aura around him, Charles adds. He must be using a high-quality dark spell. That stuff doesn't come cheap. Gordon scoffs, a hint of bitterness in his voice. Well, I guess it's to be expected that he's powerful. His family probably spoon-fed him quality potions and hired tutors to teach him those fancy spells. I'm so fucking jealous. As I watch the fight unfold, I have to agree. For a rich kid, being powerful isn't exactly a challenge. But there's something off about his movements. He's skilled, sure, but there's a rawness to his fighting style. It's like he's still getting used to his own power. Arthur POV. Damn, these orcs are tougher than I expected. I'm doing my best to parry their attacks without killing them. After all, I need them alive for casting. I dodge a punch, then deliver an uppercut that sends an orc crumpling to the ground. 10 minutes of intense fighting later, I'm surrounded by unconscious orcs sporting various bruises and black eyes. Panting slightly, I call out to my hired help. Hey, come here. We need to tie them up and look for more orcs. As the adventurers emerge from the bushes and start binding the orcs, Gordon pipes up. Why didn't you just kill these orcs anyway? I fix him with a stern look. I need them alive. That's all you need to know. Don't ask too many questions. As we work, I can't help but feel a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. One step closer to my orc army, but at what cost? My muscles ache, and I'm pretty sure I'll be feeling this fight for days. The things I do for cinema. Hours after capturing the orcs, I'm still trying to communicate with them. They just stare at me blankly, and I'm starting to feel like an idiot. Marjorie, ever helpful, chimes in. They can't speak common tongue, you should know that. I roll my eyes. Of course I know. I'm just trying. Gordon starts to explain, they're not high-level orcs. Maybe only the orc chief. Suddenly, one of the tied-up orcs interrupts, we understand common tongue, you fools. The silence that follows is deafening. We all exchange shocked glances before I burst into giggles, pointing at the vocal orc. So you can talk, hey? The orc nods, looking slightly annoyed. Gordon, clearly feeling insulted, snaps, so you guys could talk all along and pretended not to. Another orc pipes up, we're used to our own language. But we've been learning common tongue for years. It's the only way our tribe can stay ahead of the others. Now my curiosity is piqued. Ahead of other tribes? How so? The orcs nod, and a third one explains, it gives us an edge. We can understand what demons and other races are saying about us. Makes trading easier, too. Sometimes we overhear useful information about unguarded caravans or weaknesses in town defenses. And when adventurers come looking for a fight, we know their plans before they even reach our territory. I can't help but be impressed. These orcs are smarter than I gave them credit for. This could change everything, not just for my film, but for how I approach this whole situation. Well, I say, a grin spreading across my face, looks like we have a lot to talk about. The orcs eye me warily, a mix of fear and curiosity in their gazes. Can't blame them, really. I did just hand them their green behinds. The burly one, clearly the leader, speaks up. What do you want with us? Why capture us alive? There must be a reason. I can't help but chuckle. Take me to your tribe. I want to have a chat with them. A shorter orc bristles, anger overriding his fear. We'll not lead you to our tribe. We don't know what you're planning. Poku. Shut it, the leader snaps before turning back to me. What do you want with our tribe? To capture them too. I laugh, understanding their distress. They've seen what I can do. They know their whole tribe wouldn't stand a chance. Don't worry. I'm not here to hurt anyone, I reassure them. I just have a request. And you'll be rewarded for it. The leader's interest is piqued, but Poku isn't having it. He spits out something in Orcish that I'm pretty sure translates to "Don't believe this cunning demon's lies." He's deceitful. The leader ignores him, focusing on me. What request? Here goes nothing. I launch into my pitch about the film, explaining concepts they've clearly never heard of. Their confused expressions would be comical if I weren't so nervous about their response. As I talk, I notice my hired adventurers gaping at me. They look utterly baffled, probably thinking I've lost my mind for inviting orcs to be in a film. The burly orc scratches his head. This film. It's like a story. But one people can see. I nod eagerly. Correct. And I want your tribe to be part of it. You'll be paid, fed, and treated well. Plus, you'll be famous. The orcs exchange glances, a mix of confusion and intrigue on their faces. It's not every day a demon offers orcs a job in show business, after all. The leader seems to be mulling it over. And you swear no harm will come to our tribe? On my honor, I say solemnly, hoping they can't see the crossed fingers behind my back. Hey, a little white lie never hurt anyone, right? The orc leader eyes me for a long moment before nodding. All right. I'll lead you to our tribe. Great, I say, unable to hide my grin. The other orcs start grumbling, clearly not on board with this plan. Their leader barks something in Orcish, and they fall silent immediately. Now that I'm taking you to our tribe, the leader says, turning back to me, may we know who you are? Oops. I'd forgotten I was still masked. I pull it off and extend my hand. I'm Arthur Morningstar, by the way. The reaction is immediate. Eyes widen all around, orcs and adventurers alike. You're a Morningstar. The orc leader gasps, fear creeping into his voice. Marjorie and the others look equally shocked. He's the infamous prince. I try to diffuse the tension with a chuckle. Hey, now. Let's not get too excited. And you are? I ask the orc leader, trying to steer the conversation back on track. Still visibly shaken, he responds, I am Ogiga. Son of the chief of our tribe. Perfect, I nod. That makes things easier. You can talk to your dad about my project, get your tribesmen on board. Ogiga falls silent, clearly reconsidering now that he knows my identity. Marjorie, meanwhile, can barely contain her excitement. You're including orcs in your next project, Your Highness? I just watched the Demonfather. It was amazing. Gordon and Charles chime in, equally starstruck. I have to calm them down before turning back to Ogiga. You don't have to worry, Ogiga. I'm a legit filmmaker, I assure him. Ogiga eyes me warily before exchanging glances with his fellow orcs. All right, he finally says. Let's hope you don't go back on your word, demon. I can't help but chuckle. Don't worry. I'm a demon of my word. With that, I untie the orcs. Ogiga and his companions, still hesitant, lead me and my adventurers towards their village. As we approach, I can see the tribe in the distance. They're on edge, eyeing us suspiciously. Ogiga steps forward, speaking to them in rapid Orcish. After a tense moment, they let us in. The village is like stepping back in time. It's primitive, almost Stone Age in its setup. My eyes are drawn to a group of chained elephants. A pang of pity hits me, maybe I can do something about that once I've talked to the chief. Speaking of which, the chief appears, an elephant by his side. He's an imposing figure, all muscle and authority. What's a group of demons doing in my village? He demands, his voice a low growl. I straighten up, putting on my best diplomatic face. This is it, time to sell my crazy idea to an orc chief. Chief, I begin, hoping my voice sounds steadier than I feel. I have a proposition for you and your tribe. One that could change everything. Chapter 59, Orcs Acquired. Ogu POV. I eye the demon in his fancy armor, then turn to my son instead of addressing him directly. Ogiga, what's the meaning of this? I demand in a low voice. Ogiga leans in close, whispering urgently, Father, this demon is from the Morning Star family. My eyes widen. What's royalty doing here? I hiss back. Ogiga quickly explains about some film project and how this Arthur wants to hire our tribesmen. It's a lot to take in, but I've learned to listen before judging. Turning back to the royal demon, I ask cautiously, what kind of film do you need us for? I've seen a film once, stole it, actually. So I'm curious about what this demon has in mind. Arthur POV. Seeing the chief's expression soften, I realize Ogiga must have smoothed things over. Good man, orc. The details can wait, I say, trying to sound confident. What you need to know is that you won't regret this proposal. The chief eyes me skeptically. What will we get from working for you? You know dollars? I ask. He nods. Yeah, of course. It's the global currency. You're offering that? I nod back. If your tribesmen do well, I'll pay you $10,000. If not, you'll still get 1,000. What do you think? The reaction is immediate. The chief and orc's eyes widen in shock. Even Marjorie, Gordon, and Charles look stunned by my offer. I hold my breath, waiting for the chief's response. This is it, the moment of truth. Will he take the bait? The silence stretches on, and I resist the urge to fidget. Come on, chief. $10,000 for a bit of acting. It's the deal of a lifetime. I'm Ogu, the chief finally says, breaking the tense silence. Let's discuss your offer further in my hut. I can't help but grin. This is progress. All right, I nod, following him inside. As we enter, my eyes are drawn once again to the chained elephants. A plan starts forming in my mind. Ogu, are your elephants for sale? Ogu eyes me suspiciously. Why? I want to buy them. Name your price, I say, trying to sound casual. My plan is to free them, or maybe even take them with me. Elephants are incredibly intelligent creatures, and seeing them in chains doesn't sit right with me. They're priceless to us, Ogu explains. They help with many things, like scaring rival tribes. I press on, trying to reason with him. Come on. Besides that, what can those elephants do? They must consume a lot of your tribe's resources, right? Ogu considers this, nodding slowly. True, they do eat a lot of our fruit. But besides that, they're okay. He pauses, then seems to come to a decision. I'll sell you my elephant for $10. Or if you want all of my elephants, it'll be 100. Deal, I say instantly, barely able to contain my excitement. I quickly pull out my wallet, paying Ogu on the spot. His surprised expression is priceless as he scrutinizes the money, checking if it's real. An orc chief playing amateur bank teller, now there's something you don't see every day. After carefully counting the cash, Ogu nods. All right. Those elephants are yours now. He pockets the money, all business now. Let's get right to it. Ogu POV. What a fool. This demon actually bought my elephants for such a pittance. Truthfully, losing those beasts means little. I can always order the tribe to capture more from the vast forest. But business is business, so I turn my attention to the matter at hand. Your roles in my film are simple, Arthur explains. You'll be an army of orcs working for the villain. So, we're the bad guys. I clarify. Arthur nods. Yes. But being bad in the film doesn't matter. What matters is that it proves orcs can cooperate to make a film. He leans in, his eyes intense. Think about it. When people see that orcs can act, maybe other studios will start casting you. Maybe orcs won't be looked down on by other races anymore. His words strike a chord. This demon isn't just offering us a job, he's offering a chance to change how the world sees us. All right. I agree to your proposal, I say, newfound respect in my voice. When do we begin? Now, Arthur says without hesitation. Ready your orcs. We'll head to the filming location. A flicker of doubt crosses my mind. You're not trapping us, are you? Arthur snorts. As an orc chief, you must have felt my power, right? A shiver runs down my spine as I sense the aura emanating from him. There's no doubt, he's a morning star, through and through. Arthur POV. Mission accomplished. I've secured the orcs for my film, and as a bonus, I've got myself some elephants. The moment the chains come off, the elephants trumpet joyously. I can't help but chuckle as I approach the largest one, giving it a pat. To my surprise, it gently caresses me with its trunk. Looks like I've made some new friends. I'd planned to set them free, but these gentle giants seem to have other ideas. They follow me like oversized, grey puppies. Guess I'm an elephant owner now. Add that to the list of things I never thought I'd say. 2 days later, I return to the shallow parts of Gloomstone Forest. The looks on my team's faces when they see me roll up with a herd of orcs and elephants? Priceless. But there's no time to bask in their shock. We've got work to do. I've had my team prepare several large buses to transport the orcs to the Green Forest for their scenes with Saruman. The elephants, sadly, will have to stay behind with my Gloomstone team. They seem genuinely sad to see me go. Who knew elephants could do puppy dog eyes? As we board the buses for the 18-mile journey to Green Forest, which should take us about a few hours, traffic permitting, I can't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. Looking out the window as we pull away, I see the elephants waving their trunks in farewell. I make a mental note to visit them once filming wraps up. After all, what kind of demon would I be if I neglected my new pachyderm pals? As the buses rumble down the road, I settle in for the ride. Next stop, Green Forest. Time to turn these orcs into stars. When we pull up to the Shire set in Green Forest, my team's jaws practically hit the ground. I step out of the bus, a horde of orcs trailing behind me like some bizarre parade. George's eyes are as wide as saucers. You've actually managed to get orcs. He sputters, disbelief etched on his face. Mara, one of our crew members, eyes the orcs warily. Are they dangerous, boss? I can't help but chuckle. Don't worry. They won't bite. I pause for effect, then add, in fact, they can speak common tongue. Despite my reassurances, it's clear the team is on edge. Can't blame them, really. It's not every day you see a bunch of orcs milling about a hobbit village. As we start filming, though, something interesting happens. The orcs, under my direction, prove to be surprisingly cooperative. They take direction well, hit their marks, and even ad-lib a few lines that aren't half bad. Gradually, I notice the tension in my crew's shoulders start to ease. By lunchtime, I even spot Mara sharing her sandwich with one of the younger orcs. Chapter 60, Hellfire VFX Studio. Arthur POV. It's been a few days since I brought the orcs on board, and I've got to say, they're exceeding expectations. Even the team and cast seem impressed by their acting chops. Hugo, Okiga, and the others have really thrown themselves into their roles. Right now, I can hear them chatting with some of the cast about the script. Okiga's booming voice carries across the set. Sauron is a very powerful lord, yet he was defeated in one slash. Gerald Matthew, our Gandalf, patiently explains, because he was exhausted when he fought with Elendil and Gil-galad. Okiga nods, then asks, Who played Sauron? Is it the boss Arthur? Hearing my name, I wander over to join the conversation. No, no one's played Sauron yet. We haven't filmed the flashback fight scenes because we were short on orc actors. I look at Ogyuga and the others, grinning. But now that you guys are here, we're about to change that. Ogyuga's eyes light up. Oh. Can I play Sauron? He asks eagerly. I chuckle at his enthusiasm, but before I can reply, Hugo cuts in. No, Ogyuga. I'll play Sauron. I match his height and appearance better. Ogyuga's face falls, and we all share a laugh. Well, looks like you're out of luck, Ogyuga, I say, patting him on the shoulder. You should just be satisfied with your role. Ogyuga sighs dramatically. But father already took the role of playing Lurtz, Saruman's chief Uruk-hai. I burst out laughing. Well, your father really matches the looks of the characters I had in mind. Ogyuga just sighs again, the picture of dejection. After spending some more time with the cast, we dive back into filming. A few more days fly by in a blur of takes and retakes. Then, out of the blue, George pulls me aside with news that sends a jolt of energy through my tired bones. The arena we've been converting into a full-on studio is finally complete. Suddenly, I'm wide awake, despite the exhaustion of daily filming. I clap my hands, calling for everyone's attention. Guys, listen up. We're going to continue filming the overall scenes at the studio that's just been completed. We're heading back to the capital today. The cast looks confused, this is the first they're hearing of it. But my crew? They erupt into cheers. No more roughing it in the wild. No more battling the elements. We're going back to civilization, baby. Pack it up, people. I shout, unable to keep the grin off my face. We're taking this show on the road. As everyone scrambles to gather their things, I can't help but feel a surge of excitement. A real studio, with all the bells and whistles. This is it. This is where the Lord of the Rings is really going to come to life. After a day's journey, we're back in the heart of civilization. The city sprawls before us, a stark contrast to the wild forests we've called home for weeks. I missed the air here in the city, one of the crew members says, his voice thick with emotion. You'd think he'd been exiled for years instead of a few weeks of filming. Ogyuga, ever the contrarian, wrinkles his nose. The air is not fresh at all, he grumbles, not bothering to hide his disdain. The other orcs, though, are wide-eyed with wonder. So this is the city, they murmur, taking in the sights, sounds, and smells of urban demon life. Some even look a bit misty-eyed. It's probably their first time seeing anything like this. As we make our way down the street, the locals can't help but stare. Whispers follow in our wake. What are orcs doing here? Are they attacking? Should we run? Maybe it's some kind of parade. Look at their weird clothes. Is this some new fashion trend? An elderly demon clutches her purse tighter as we pass. In my day, orcs knew their place, far away from decent folk. A group of young demons, on the other hand, seem thrilled. Whoa, cool. Real orcs. Can we get a picture? I can't help but chuckle. If not for the orcs' civilian clothes and the hefty bribe I paid the city guards, bringing a horde of orcs into the city would have landed me in some serious hot water. As we chat, we finally reach our destination, the former arena-turned-studio. Whoa! This building is massive, the orcs gasp in unison, craning their necks to take in the structure. Let's go in, I say, unable to contain my excitement. As we step inside, I'm struck dumb. The place has been completely transformed. The spacious arena with its rows of seating is gone, replaced by a marvel of magical engineering. Illusion artifacts line the walls, their soft glow hinting at the power contained within. Intricate runes cover the floor and walls, pulsing with energy. These aren't just for show, they're designed to physically move and reshape the environment to match the projected illusions. It's like a real-life CGI setup. The illusions serve as our green screen, while the magically manipulated walls and ground provide the tangible elements to sell the effect. It's Hollywood magic meets actual magic. As we enter further, the demon operators greet us. Boss, this is the studio built to your specifications, one says proudly. Another chimes in, a hint of awe in his voice, this studio alone cost us millions of dollars. I nod, taking it all in. You demons did great, I say, my mind already racing with the possibilities this place offers. Turning to the orcs and the rest of the crew, I can't help but grin. Welcome to the future of filmmaking. Turning to the orcs and the rest of the crew, I can't help but grin. Welcome to the future of filmmaking. Their eyes widen in wonder, and Hugo's voice trembles as he speaks. Did I hear that right? This place cost millions of dollars. I chuckle, gesturing around. What do you think? Ogyaga's jaw drops. Royal family must be so rich. I'm about to respond when Machi, one of my crew members, jumps in. No. Boss Arthur's money isn't from the royal family. He earned it all himself. Easy there, Machi, I say, patting him on the shoulder. They're new to civilization, let alone the Demonfather box office numbers. Machi's face flushes with embarrassment. Oh, right. I turn back to the orcs, who look thoroughly confused. Let's just say I made a little film that did pretty well. This studio? It's just the beginning. Hugo scratches his head. A film that makes millions? Now that I'd like to see. Stick around, I say with a wink. You might just end up in the sequel. I turn to Gerald and the others, suddenly realizing that Furful and some of the cast and crew are still probably back in Green Forest. As if on cue, George enters the studio with Furful, Crag, Kurt, and the rest trailing behind him. Their jaws drop as they take in the place. Furful's eyes sparkle with wonder. I feel like I've traveled back to the ancient times. Oh. I raise an eyebrow. You've been living since ancient times. She laughs, a musical sound that echoes through the studio. You think I'm some ancient elf that lives for thousands of years? Oh, I mumble, feeling a bit foolish. Furful's still chuckling as she explains, it's just that this place, filled with runes and magical artifacts, reminds me of pictures and paintings I've seen of the ancient world. Like the ancient dungeons. I offer, trying to save face. Yes, exactly, she nods, her smile warm. I can't help but grin back. Well, if we're going for ancient dungeon chic, I'd say we nailed it. Though hopefully with fewer traps and more craft services. Furful laughs again, and I feel a flutter in my chest that has nothing to do with the magical energy surrounding us. I quickly turn to address the rest of the group, hoping no one noticed my momentary distraction. All right, we'll film the rest of the scenes in this studio, I announce, and predictably, the orcs have questions. Gugu, one of the elder orcs, frowns. We'll be filming in this place? It doesn't match the backdrop for the scenes at all. I can't help but chuckle. Well, you're in for a surprise. I gesture to the demon operators, who approach eagerly. I hand them the architectural drawings of Mount Doom, carefully sketched from various important angles. With a nod, they set to work. The operators begin their spell, directing it towards the drawings. The papers dissolve into glowing ash, absorbed by the illusion artifacts lining the walls. Suddenly, the world around us shifts. The orcs' jaws drop in unison. Even my team and Furful, who knew about the illusion effects, gasp in astonishment. The bare studio transforms into the hellish landscape of Mount Doom. The ground beneath our feet trembles and shifts, causing everyone to stumble as if caught in an earthquake. When the rumbling subsides, we're standing at the base of a towering volcano, complete with rivers of molten lava. Anuol. Ogyaga breathes, his eyes wide as saucers. Furful reaches out tentatively, her fingers brushing against a nearby rock formation. It feels real, she marvels. I can't keep the grin off my face. Welcome to Mount Doom. Pretty impressive for a dungeon, eh?
Thanks for listening.